I'd love it if everybody would start moving toward your seats. I was wandering around chatting with everyone, and someone said, "Peter, it's 6:30." And I said, "Whoa, I don't want to be accused of starting late." It's wonderful to see everyone socializing, though. That's so important. Emily, you're doing 2 numbers, right?
Oh, I was just going to do.
That's good. Okay, look at this crowd. You're wonderfully well behaved tonight. Maybe it's a good sign for the evening. I'm Peter Imsey, and I am thrilled to be welcoming all of you to the 2025 town business portion of the town meeting in Bow, New Hampshire. Thank you for being here. First order of business, every year at town meeting is a presentation of the colors. And this year, our colors will be presented by a local Girl Scout troop under the leadership of Carrie Fontaine and Jen Archer. And our color guard members are Bella Archer, Kayla O'Connor, Elizabeth Nesbitt, Elizabeth Abbott, Lilianne Fontaine, Eleanor Fecto, and Natalie Fecto. Scouts, please present the colors. And all of you, please rise.
Color guard, post the colors. Color guard, honor your flag. Please rise and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And while the Scouts remain on stage, Bow High School student Emily Fecto will offer a musical offering for us tonight.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
color guard dismissed.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Scouts. I always love that part of this part of the meeting. For everyone who's here tonight, just a reminder, tonight's meeting is being live streamed and recorded so that remote viewers can watch and hear what's happening. But it also means we need to be particularly careful that we use microphones whenever we're speaking so those who are remote can hear what we are saying. If you need help getting to a microphone, we can please ask any one of the assistant moderators who have a vest to help you, and we can take care of it. Unfortunately, those who are watching remotely can't participate in the meeting by voting, but if you see something you're interested in coming up on the agenda, you can certainly get down here quickly and participate in that part of the meeting. I typically start the meeting with an introduction of folks at the head table, and rather than try to do it in the order of the head table, because I'll go get something mixed up, I'm going to go down the order of my list, and I'll invite those of you at the head table, just raise your hand so people can pick you out of the crowd. The select board members who are here tonight, Angela Brennan is our chair, Elena Colby, our vice chair, Christopher Nicolopoulos, Ian Flanagan, and Kip McDaniel. Town manager Dave Stack is here. Town clerk Madrula Nayak, he's here. Yeah. Cheryl Linder. And as we go through the evening, I'm assisted all evening long with little nudges and jabs and comments and assistance from Eric Maher, our town council. He's here to help us out. Rather than taking the time to introduce all the other department heads who are here tonight, we will introduce them as and when needed if they are called to speak on a topic of their interest. Special thank yous I'd love to offer at the beginning of every meeting. Number one, Connor Parzak, who is, the man behind the curtain, way up there in the control room. He's in charge of making sure the sound system works as well as it does, that you can see what's on the screen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Connor. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. Supervisors of the checklist, they're folks who don't get all of the credit that they deserve. They're the ones who spend all year long keeping our voter rolls up to date, doing the reports that need to be made, checking you in at town meeting, checking you in on election day. Our current supervisors are Beth Titus, Kate S., and Amy Nepper. Kate couldn't be here this town meeting this year, so Jennifer McDaniel, a former supervisor, has helped out with this year's town meeting. So thank you to the supervisors. I've introduced Madrula, but I also have to, every time I have any meeting, have to say thank you so much to her for all the support she gives me as we move forward. Wendy Gilman is another one of those sort of unsung heroes down at the end of the row here. She helps keep the notes of the meeting so that we can create great minutes for next year. And Tanya Lindquist, the administrative assistant, is usually here, but she is out of state at this point in time. So if we have to do any amendments or do any techie kind of stuff, Madrula is going to jump in. But she asked me to make sure you all know she's not comfortable doing it, and she may not figure it out. And if she does, Carrie Makinen, if you're in here somewhere, she's going to be looking for you to come running over here to help her out. So Carrie is our community development director, and maybe by virtue of being one of the youngest employees over at the town building, is the most tech savvy. As always, I have a number of assistant moderators helping me with these meetings to make sure everything goes smoothly. My assistants tonight are Nick Watson, Jerry Carrier, Tamar Roberts, Barbara Griffin, Christina Fitzpatrick, Jim Hayden, Carol Negish, and Harry Judd. I thank all of them for their help. Again, it sounds trite to say it, but I couldn't run the meetings without the help of all my assistants, so thank you for doing that. I'd like to remind people, a couple facility announcements. There's no parking right out front of the high school. If you're parked out there, you might get towed, so move your cars. There's no smoking anywhere on school grounds, and no food inside the school auditorium, please. At this point in the time, I'd love to recognize Greg Cordier, the president of the Bow Men's Club, who would like to do the annual presentation of the Citizen of the Year Award.
Hello. This year's Citizen of the Year was chosen for their devotion and selflessness in serving the people of Bow. As a coach for youth sports, this person has impacted the children of Bow by teaching them not only the athletic skills to succeed in their sport, but also sportsmanship and humility. As a former president and board member of the Bow Community Men's Club, this person has helped to raise thousands of dollars that have been donated directly to youth clubs, charities, town organizations, and Troop 75, the local Scouts of America troop in Bow. Through his leadership, more than $10,000 in scholarships has been donated to graduating seniors of Bow High School to continue their education. As the state surgeon, wellness director, and a colonel in the New Hampshire Army National Guard, this person has served not only his community, but also his country. He has worked tirelessly to advocate for New Hampshire veterans suffering from PTSD, depression, anxiety, and substance misuse by helping to establish programs to combat behavioral and mental health issues. And perhaps his most significant contribution to the community of Bow is his dedication and expertise in his role as a paramedic and EMT in the Bow Fire Department. Seemingly always on call, he regularly puts aside his personal life to respond to medical emergencies in Bow and the surrounding communities. He has provided emergency medical care and saved the lives of hundreds of Bow residents, some of whom are likely in this room tonight. People who know him will tell you that he is one of the most selfless people they know. And it gives me great pleasure to invite Rich Oberman up to receive the 2025 Citizen of the Year.
As noted in our rules, if we aren't finished by 11 o'clock tonight, I plan to adjourn our meeting, and if we do adjourn, we will regroup a week from tonight, Wednesday the 19th at 6:30 here at Bow High to finish our meeting. The same goes if we have a motion to reconsider that has to be held at a future date. We will hold it next Wednesday night here in the High Auditorium. We'll be voting today the same way we've done for the last few meetings. We'll be using the voter cards, which seem to have worked out very well, as well as, so you all should have received a voter card when you checked in, as well as a pack of ballots in case we have any secret ballots. If we have a secret ballot, your voter card will be marked, and we'll just go through the evening marking the ballots each time we have a ballot. If we have a secret ballot, there'll be one ballot box on the stage, one out in the lobby, and we just ask you to find the one nearest to you, move through the line as quickly as possible, cast your ballots, get back to your seats so we can get back to business. It's possible we won't have any secret ballots. We'll just play it by ear. In accordance with our rules, only voters may speak, at the town meeting, except with permission of the meeting. One exception to this is we allow town officials and consultants and experts who are here to present information on behalf of a particular issue to speak. Otherwise, non-voters need the permission of the meeting to speak. I'd like to remind people now, under the right to know law as it now exists in New Hampshire, the clerk has to record who makes every motion and who makes the second. So I ask you to please speak up and make sure that I can identify who you are, or Madrula can pick you out of the crowd so that we can make sure that we have an accurate record. As I was getting ready for this meeting, I started to get a little nostalgic, and I kind of was thinking, my gosh, I wonder how many of these I've done. A little trivia for the night, at least by my calculations, since I was first elected moderator, this will be my 26th town meeting with you folks. And as I was standing there at the community building all day yesterday voting, and did the calculation, we've done a total of 59 primaries and town elections and state elections together during all of that time as well. So 59, that's a lot. My gosh, you'd think I know how to do it now, but who knows? But anyway, it's been a fun ride. Thank you, folks. It's been great to be part of this. I always like to remind folks, you know, I think we do a great job here in Bow. I heard stories from other towns where things don't go so smoothly. I think I always say, you know, don't applause, don't cheer, don't do anything that's going to make a speaker feel uncomfortable or like you don't want to hear what they have to say. I don't permit personal attacks on voters or town officials or committee members, and I ask you to please limit your remarks to the issues. You know, sometimes folks kind of want to go off, and I say, let's, you know, whatever the article at hand, let's stick to it. And another thing, you know, that I'm not sure I know exactly how to phrase this, but, you know, to keep things moving along, if somebody's already said something that you agree with, there's no, you know, I guess I'd say consider whether you really have to say it again. You know, maybe you can just get up and say, I agree with what so-and-so said, and sit down to help, you know, keep the meeting moving. But most of all, you know, I ask you all to continue to have our Bow meetings serve as an example for anyone else who may be attending, youth or outsiders, that, you know, there is a proper way to gather and to conduct business. There's a way to disagree and be respectful of one another. There's a way for all of us to act like adults and to put the town interests above our own. So let's take care of our town business and enjoy ourselves while we're at it. And be thankful, you know, that we can meet like this, free of harassment, free of threats, free of, you know, people with guns, you know, threatening to harm our families if we vote the wrong way. It's pretty amazing. I plan to run the meeting tonight in accordance with the town moderator rules that are published in the town warrant. It's the same ones that Jim and Hayden and I developed probably 20 years ago. We've been using them ever since, and I have started the tradition of asking the meeting to adopt the rules as its rules rather than Peter's rules at the beginning of the meeting. And I'd be really happy to entertain a motion to do that at this time. So Harry Judd made the motion and Jack Crisp the second to adopt the moderator's rules as published in the town report as the meeting's rules. Does anybody wish to discuss that motion? If not, can you raise your voter cards? All those in favor? Yeah. And all those opposed? All right, thank you. The yes votes have it. And that's good practice, getting to use your voter card. So good. You all passed the test. I always have a thought for the year. You know, some quotes I wore out and used too much. I used one last year, and I thought of getting another one. And when I read it, I thought, you know, this still speaks today. It's attributed by a gentleman named Roy Bennett. And, you know, he said, listen with curiosity, speak with honesty, and act with integrity. The greatest problem with communication today is that we don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. Instead, we should listen for what's behind the other speaker's words and think about what we've heard before we craft a response. So with that thought in mind, I would like to move on to our business of the night. I usually start out by reading the official notice portion of our town warrant, which I'll do right now. To the inhabitants of the town of Bow, actually, they put me in charge of technology. Look out. Oop, too much. There we go. Good. To the inhabitants of the town of Bow in the county of Merrimack and said state, qualified to vote in town affairs. You are hereby notified to meet at the Bow Community Building on Tuesday, March 11, 2025, to act upon Article 1 and Article 2 by official ballot. The polls shall be open for balloting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You are further notified to meet at Bow High School Auditorium on Wednesday, March 12, 2025. At 6:30 p.m. to discuss, amend, and act upon Articles 3 through 20, including the proposed fiscal year 2025-26 municipal budget and all other matters to come before the meeting. And what I typically do at this point in the meeting is I announce the results of the voting from yesterday, which I will do at this point in time. I'll start with the votes on the town articles. For the selectmen, there were 3 candidates running for 2 offices. Angela Brennan received 934 votes. Hannah Livingston received 663 votes. Christopher Nicolopoulos, 915 votes. So Angela Brennan and Christopher Nicolopoulos were the 2 high vote receivers. Budget Committee, there was 2 persons running for 2 seats. Benjamin Davis received 925 votes. Jeffrey Knight, 896 votes. Budget Committee member Robert Mayo received 1,050 votes. There were a minimal number of write-in votes. For Trustee of Trust Funds, Matthew Poulin received 524 votes. Mary Beth Walls received 860 votes. That was a race for 1 opening, so Mary Beth Walls was the successful candidate. For library trustees, 3 people were running for 1 seat. Corrine Lappin received 227 votes, Wanda White, 249 votes, and Sheila Williams, 477 votes. And I think I may just add, as I'm noting this, I know some folks have some questions. One of the things the state requires us to post now are what the state refers to as undervotes. And undervotes are when a voter chooses not to vote in a particular office. So it could either be where they skip voting on a particular office or question entirely, or it may be a case where you have a choice to vote for 2, but you only vote for 1. And if you vote for less, they call that an undervote. So those of you who may wonder why on our reports we list that undervote number, that's where it comes from. On the proposed zoning amendments, there were quite a few of them, and I will go through them quickly. There's no slide on the amendments, right? No. Okay. And I'll just refer to them by the letter in which they appeared on your ballots. Zoning question A received 1,065 yes votes, 2,010 no votes. B, 1,002 yes votes, 257 no votes. Question C, 973 yes votes, 198 no votes. Question D, 956 yes votes, 199 no votes. Question E, 1,137 yes votes, 96 no votes. Question F, 1,119 yes votes, 104 no votes. G, 1,163 yes votes, 109 no votes. And finally, question H, 1,126 yes votes, 111 no votes. So it's my understanding all of those articles passed. And then finally, on the school side of things, I know Moderator Nick Watson will be announcing school results again at the school meeting, but he told me I could go ahead and not have everybody in suspense till Friday night. For the school board election, which the town runs for the school board, for the school district, 3 folks were running for 2 seats on the school board. Melanie Klunk received 857 votes, Judson Malone 553 votes, Jenna Reardon 1,090 votes. So Jenna Reardon and Melanie Klunk were voted to those 2 seats. School treasurer unopposed, Greg Colby received 1,099 votes. And with all of those preliminaries behind us, we are ready to, my gosh, MZ can do it. He can do it. Move on to proceeding to address the warrant articles. So the first article, Articles 1 and 2 were addressed on the official ballot yesterday. So we start with Article 3 tonight, which is the town operating budget. And as is my practice, I won't be reading the text of the articles. I will be referring to the article as it appears in the town warrant. And in this case, it appears on the screen in front of us. And so Article 3, do I have a motion to adopt Article 3? Okay, that's Jardine Crisp. I have a motion and second to adopt the Article 3, and my notes tell me that the Selectman Chris Nicolopoulos will be introducing this article to us.
Thank you, Peter. I think this is the 9th budget that I've got to present here at town meeting. And this budget is a culmination of a lot of hard work. It started with our department heads this year, who delivered very lean budget requests to the town manager, who then made some cuts, delivered it to the Board of Selectmen, who additionally worked through every line of this budget, made a few more cuts, sent it off to the Budget Committee, who made some more cuts, and the Select Board then adopted and affirmed all of the Budget Committee's cuts. So the budget we're presenting you tonight is an operating budget of $11,802,503. This budget has a 3% operating year-over-year increase. Means we're spending about 3% more this year than last year on running the entire town. When you factor in revenue and warrant articles, you will see that the town budget is actually a 3.7% decrease in total taxable spending. That will bring our tax rate in at $4.59, 3.7%, or 18-cent decrease. A few things about this budget that are important for you to understand. They include no new staff. That was a no-go for as lean as this budget was going to be. It does include a 3% raise for town employees. There was a substantial increase in health insurance year over year that we're able to absorb within this budget. And the budget I present you tonight, I'm proud of. I think it's as lean as we could have while delivering all critical services. And I'm happy to answer any questions about our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 3? I don't see anybody at either of the microphones. I don't see anyone moving toward a microphone to speak. If that is truly the case, I'm not stupid. I'm going to take a vote. All right. All those in favor of Article 3 as presented, please raise your voter cards. Thank you very much. Put them down. All those opposed, please raise your voter cards. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The yes votes have it. Article 3 passes.
Peter, I move to restrict reconsideration. Second.
Okay. There has been a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 3. For those who are not town meeting wonks, I'll do a little diversion here to explain. In a typical town meeting, at any point in the night or the evening, the voters present could decide to reopen discussion of an article, even an article they passed already, and conceivably even have a different outcome later in the evening. In order to restrict the possibility of that happening, some towns, had unfortunate results. The state has adopted a statute that allows members of a town meeting to make a motion to restrict reconsideration. And what that does, if passed, it says, if in fact there is a motion later in the evening to reconsider this particular article, and if it passes, that the reconsideration action has to occur at least a week later at a noticed continuation of the town meeting. That's why you might remember in the beginning I mentioned not only if we don't finish by 11, but also if we have any carryover articles or reconsideration, we'll come back next Wednesday. So I apologize for those of you who know the rules and know the law for this little digression, but for those of you who don't, the effect of voting yes on this motion would be to say the budget cannot be discussed again tonight. It would have to be, you'd have to all come back next week to discuss it. And so that, folks later in the meeting couldn't change the outcome of whatever vote, the approval that just happened. So with that as behind us, the motion on the floor right now is a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 3. Yes, sir.
Or I'll just say what I have in mind.
Well, first, remember to identify yourself. Give your name and address, so
Is this working?
we know who you are. Now it is.
Okay, yeah. So Jim Hayden, Woodhill Road. I believe the lady over here was on her way to the microphone when you called the vote before. Is that true?
Yes, I stumbled on the way down.
Yeah. So before we vote on reconsideration, I would like to ask if we could listen to hear what she wanted to say before we vote on reconsideration or the motion to restrict reconsideration.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. Some of you out there accuse me of being too much of a softie, and some of you think I'm too hard, so I try to find the middle ground. But if in fact, my rule is if somebody is working their way toward a microphone, I usually let them speak. If I didn't see you, I apologize, ma'am. And I don't, sure. With leave of the meeting, I would like to let this voter speak on Article 3 and let her voice be heard before we vote on this motion to reconsider.
Is the mic on?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay, my name is Karen Rabideau. I am at 40 Stone Sled Lane in Bow, and I have a question regarding the municipal tax rate change. How is this change interleaved with the reassessment and new tax rate? So I don't, because it was different last year than this year, so I'm not happy with you saying, oh, it only went from 477 to 459. There's a bit more to
Sure.
it, and I'm wondering if someone could explain.
I can. Thank you for the question. When we talk about the 18 cents, I am talking about a tax rate that is based off of the new assessment, the assessment from fiscal year 24-25. But if you want to compare that to fiscal year 23-24, back then, before we added the new assessments to our townwide reassessment, our municipal tax rate was $6.64. In the 24-25 budget, it went to $4.77, and that was triggered by the reassessment where we added almost $600 million in new assessed value across the town. And so the 477 this year with the 3.7% reduction goes to 459.
Okay, I see the math and follow along, but if this year's budget was phrased in terms of last year's assessments, would that number be higher or lower than the 477?
If there hadn't been a reassessment, the net municipal tax rate would be down the functional equivalent of 3.7%. Our spending is down 3.7%. And so whatever assessment you apply that against, that would be the reduction.
You didn't answer the question, but yeah, I'm not going to get a better answer.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you to the meeting for accommodating my effort to accommodate the voter. The motion on the floor, we do have the motion to restrict reconsideration, so I'd like to make sure we take care of that before we forget. Let's just take a vote on all those in favor of the motion to restrict reconsideration. Please raise your cards. Yeah. All right, thank you. And all those opposed? All right, so we have moved to reconsider. All right, that's Article 3. Next article, Article 4, relates to the deposit of funds into our capital reserve funds. And do I have a motion to adopt Article 4 as it appears in the warrant? Okay, and a second? Okay, Jack and Harry. So motion, Article 4 has been moved and seconded, and my notes indicate that Selectman Kip McDaniel will introduce this article to us.
All right, thanks, Peter. So this is my first year going through this process, and so watching CIP, it's a fascinating and very valuable process. I came to think of it, it's a simple way of thinking about it as a series of savings accounts. So we can plan for the future for big expenditures and not see huge variabilities in the tax bill because we planned ahead. The CIP committee, made up of a lot of volunteers from town, starts meeting in August, and they go very much line by line by line through what we're looking for in the future. And so this year they are asking that we raise and appropriate $1,108,000 to be put into the town's capital reserve funds for current and future capital projects. The tax impact of this is 56 cents per $1,000 of property value. So there is, I said, a series of accounts, and you can see them listed here, and it's just trying to save for the future.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 4? Okay, I see a voter moving to the mic over there, so we'll wait. Yes, sir, remember, state your name and address.
Jeffrey Martineau, 39 Allen Road.
I didn't catch that. Can you speak a little up?
Jeffrey Martineau, 39 Allen Road, Bow.
Thank you very much.
So this is actually raising tax to go into the CRF, correct? This is because there are subsequent warrants to appropriate funds out of the CRF that were from previous years?
Yes.
Is that correct? So I had a couple of questions based off of the future expenditures. The first one that anybody that was here last year knows is near and dear to my heart is the Public Works Fund, which is, I believe, allocating $335,000 of this with the intention of purchasing more dump trucks. We bought a dump truck last year, as I understand it, and we're proposing to buy 2 more this year. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
How much did we spend this year on maintaining the existing fleet of dump trucks?
Tim, would you like to comment on that? I don't think you'll have an exact number, but
Yeah, an approximation is fine. I mean, are we talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands?
Yeah, Tim, could you use a mic, please?
Tim Sweeney, Public Works Director. Can you hear me?
Hey, Tim? Hey, Tim, you might be able to use this one. This one might be...
Doctor, is that better? Tim Sweeney, Public Works Director. I don't have to yell now. So in the operating budget for last year, we had $80,000 in parts. And we've probably used 60, 65. We've had quite a lot of breakdowns this year, unfortunately, and the price of everything has skyrocketed.
And have the breakdowns impacted service to the community? Were we not able to clear roads during storms or any other adverse impact to the community?
We thrive to make sure we complete the mission, even if we only had 1 truck. We scramble, we readjust routes, and we get the job done.
And the dump truck that we purchased last year, if I recall from the February meeting, is still not, we're still refitting that, correct? It hasn't hit the road yet?
Correct. We've been refitting it all winter. We do have 1 mechanic that's been out since January 1st. So we've been busy plowing snow, and in between breakdowns, that's what we've worked on.
Understood, and I'm just laying the land out, getting a lay of the land and what you guys have been able to do and not, and totally understood on the mechanic. I hope he gets better soon. Where was my mind going with that? How many dump trucks do we have in the fleet today?
9 large trucks and 3 1-tons.
And is this proposal to purchase a large truck? It said a 6-wheel. I don't know the distinction.
This is a 6-wheel dump truck, 2 6-wheel dump trucks to replace 2. One of them is 15 years old, and one of them is 16 years old. So they have done.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to keep it clear. So that's the warrant that's coming up. But for this particular, for the CRF, which is the future funding for next year, if I recall that's intended to fund for another 6-wheel dump truck, correct?
This is to fund all of our equipment. Each piece is spanned out in a 20-year period. So there's funds in there for, say, a backhoe goes for $500,000. There's a $50,000 put in that for, in 20 years you buy a backhoe or a loader or a dump truck. So that's the whole fleet. Sometimes we spend, which tonight we're asking for $600,000 for 2 dump trucks. But this covers the whole fleet for a long period of time to put it away for the savings account.
Just for the wider audience, I'm looking at page 49 in the budget, so everyone can follow along where it details their future spending. Okay. And thank you, Mr. Sweeney. That's on the fire department side. Is this intended so we have another warrant coming up for $1.5 million for a pumper truck. So this 275 is intended to fund what in the future? I believe last year we funded an ambulance, and this year and a forest truck. Is that accurate, or did I misremember that? Yes, sorry, the chief's SUV was last year, and the additional $80,000 for the additional costs for the forest truck.
Yes.
Okay, and this year it's $1.1 million for a pumper and $462 million for an ambulance, which is a future warrant article.
462,000.
462,000, sorry. So looking at the forward proposal on page 50, I don't see anything projected for the next 3 years. The next projected purchase is a 1-ton pickup truck in 2029, and then another ambulance in 2030. So what is the 275 being set aside for?
Those purchases down the road.
So are we not going to have them next year?
So I think maybe I can provide a little bit of background on how these numbers come up for each year. And so when we buy a truck, so this year we have a proposal to purchase a new ambulance. That ambulance is $1.1 million. Starting in next year's CIP plan, they will say, well, how long, I'm sorry, fire truck. They'll say, how long is that fire truck going to last? It's going to last 22 years. That's what we assume today. So we're going to assume that 1.1 million is going to grow 2.5% over the next 22 years. And so what is the pro rata share of that for this year? And so next year we'll put away $50,000. I'm doing that math in my head. It may not be right. We'll put $50,000 away to replace that fire truck 20 years out. And we'll put $10,000 to the forest truck, which will replace 15 years out. And we're going to put $22,000 for the ambulance that we're replacing 12 years out. And each year in the CIP process, they'll look at each one of those assumptions. They'll say, well, when we last did this, we thought a fire truck cost this. Is that still the best guess? Best estimate? Do we, based on how much we've used it, do we still think 22 years is right? And based on the current economic environment, are we still safe saying 2.5%? So when you look at all of those lines, and this spreadsheet on page 50 that I'm looking at is only 5 or 6 years, they'll have a spreadsheet that goes out 30. And for each one of those lines, it gets moved. And I think, a minute ago we were talking about the kind of glut of dump trucks from DPW. And I think it's important to understand that during the COVID years, we punted every big truck purchase because of the cost of steel. We saw trucks going up, there was no supply, and so we said, Tim, can you cobble together the truck for one more year? And we just kept pushing those out. And those are now coming back to, as they're available and as the trucks have kind of been hobbled along.
With respect, I understand what you're saying, and I respect where you're coming from. However, COVID was 5 years ago, so we've had 5 years to recoup. My question specifically was, looking at what we're given, which is a 5-year look ahead. You've got $250,000 up there for a fire truck CRF. What is that targeted for?
It's targeted for every piece of equipment that they have over the life of its
I understand,
use.
But you have only 2 more items that are not funded on the list. Can you give us some understanding of what we're paying for?
I think it's important to recognize that as you're looking at the CIP, you'll notice that the proposed contribution numbers stay pretty much the same to avoid any sudden spikes as we are trying to purchase items.
I understand that. So
this $275,000 that you're referring to is trying to maintain that level savings. And so it does not necessarily mean that $275,000 will be taken out next year for a purchase. We are monitoring all of our needs, and so this goes towards everything over $25,000.
So if I'm hearing correctly, the numbers on the screen are I shouldn't say manufactured, that's harsh, presented in a way to maintain a $1.1 million tax on the town of Bow. and its citizens to maintain revenue going into the capital reserve fund, if I'm hearing correctly, because there's no justification for the next 5 years for $275,000 a year going into the fire truck CRF.
The issue is that if we wait and we don't put any money aside, when the next large truck comes available, becomes in need, we'll need to spend $2 million on a truck, and I would hate for our taxes to go up suddenly $2 million to accommodate the purchase of a truck that we did not plan for. What we're doing here is planning appropriately for the future to make sure that we avoid those kind of spikes that really have an impact on families' budgets.
And again, it's important to understand that the CIP projects out for any capital purchase over $25,000 over the life of that item, what it's going to cost. So how much on a pro rata share to replace that cost at its end of life do we need each year? So this number, if you calculate it over the life of each piece of equipment in the full CIP, will be attributed to that pro rata share between now and when it's end of life.
So what is the full?
Well, I'm going to jump in here. I think, Mr. Voter, you've asked your questions at least 4 or 5 different times. You've gotten answers. You don't like the answers, and I've been very lenient here. We usually allow people 3 minutes to speak, and we've used a lot more than that. And I think the question's been answered. I think the CIP's been explained, and I'd ask you to sit down and see if any other voters wish to speak at this point in time.
And I'd just like to remind everyone that these meetings of the CIP are public meetings, and if you'd like to learn more about the process, we'd invite you to come and view what the CIP committee does and learn more about the process so you can understand how beneficial this CIP committee is for our community to make sure that we're being responsible stewards of our tax dollars.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? It looks like we have a voter at this microphone here.
John Caruso, 155 Hooksett Turnpike in Bow. I tried to do my homework, but I couldn't figure out how much money do we actually have in the Capital Reserve Fund. I don't need a line by line item, just a general full number, because I have no idea.
We're just trying to figure out, because they're in separate accounts, they're like listed in separate accounts.
Yep.
We're trying to figure out a total number or an approximate number to give you here.
Approximate will be fine.
And if you're looking for any specific one, because there are multiple capital reserve funds, you'll notice when you look at the charts here, it does show the beginning capital reserve balance to give you an idea for, say, the police department, where we stand right now. But it may take a moment to try and add all those numbers up for each of the different capital reserve funds.
Well, okay, I just couldn't find it myself, so that's why I'm counting on you guys.
Well, you see, do you have a town report with you?
No.
Okay. It's on page 71 in your book, and there's a total on the front. The total ledger balance is $7,656,090.
Thank you. So my only question then is that we've had, as everyone else in this room probably knows, a pretty good tax increase just recently. And even though it is prudent to put money away for the future, I wonder whether this is a year you might think about not putting money away and giving the people of this town a break and do it again next year. That's it. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have a, no, I thought we had a voter at this microphone. Anybody else wish to speak on this article? So this is, again, Article 4, relative to deposits to the capital reserve funds. If there isn't any further discussion, we'll put the matter to a vote.
I just have one more question. I'm sorry. How do we do, if we want to make a motion to amend, how do we do that now or after the vote?
You want to do it before the vote, because after the vote it'll be too late.
Jeffrey Martineau, 39 Allen Road, Bow, New Hampshire. I'd like to make a motion to reduce the CRF for Article 4 from 1.108 million to 750,000. I don't know if we have to go line by line and pick things, or if I can just reduce the total value.
Yeah, that's a good question. Does he have to specify? Yeah. Yeah, I was just checking with town council. He recommends that you identify it by specific line item where that money would come from, so that there's no doubt down the road which funds were reduced and which ones weren't.
Then I would make,
by that.
Forgive me for interrupting. Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's right. So just so that there's no confusion down the road, and DRA knows which funds, can be funded and which ones can't.
I've never made a motion before, so am I supposed to word this a specific way, or just say I'd like to
Yeah, well, you're, I try to be, you'd be motion to amend the article. You've identified you'd like to reduce it to a specific number, but then I think you need to specify which of the line items would be reduced in order to get you to that number.
Okay, then I think actually the gentleman over here had a valid recommendation. I would just, I'll make my motion to reduce 25% across all line items in the CRF for an overall reduction across every line item by 25%.
Okay. Typically, that's going to be hard to display that on the screen. Yeah, I know. I'm just kind of thinking through 2 steps ahead of here, but you're right. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. So just so I understand, your motion is to amend Article 4 to reduce the total number appearing in the article by 25%, and then to reduce each of the corresponding deposits in the capital reserve funds by 25% to make up that number.
Yes.
Okay. So first question is there a second to that motion? Okay. We have and your name and address, sir?
Brian Robichaud, 13 Audley Drive.
Okay, you got that? Okay, so we have a motion and second to amend Article 4. Specifically, it would probably take longer, well, are folks comfortable? They understand what the motion is, or would you like us to take the time to rewrite the article, with the amended language on it so you can see it on the screen? Yeah, okay. Then let's go ahead. So what we're talking about now then is the motion to amend. So if you're in favor, what we'd like to do is have a discussion now on the motion to amend. If any voters would like to speak to the motion to amend, now is your chance. I'll recognize this.
William Knapp, 79 Brown Hill Road. I just want to mention that for a $600,000 home, you're talking about $84 a year to not save for our future dump trucks and stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you own a house that's $600,000, that's only $84 a year. You're not saving much.
Thank you. Anyone else to wish to speak on the motion to amend? There's a voter up here. Yes, sir.
Brian Murphy, 15 Vaughan Road. Apologize if this somewhat mimics what he said, but quick question. If we were to reduce this by 25%, at some point, do we forecast that we're just going to have to increase it at some later date to catch up?
That is the perfect question, 100%.
So we are.
All you would be doing is kicking the can down the road on capital expenses that we absolutely know that we need.
Temporary deferral, paying later, move it now,
100%.
wild fluctuations in tax rate, that's what we're talking about?
And when we look at our tax, so I've done 9 budgets for this town. And other than the first budget, which is a year where we built a new police station, we've been virtually flat within CIP for 9 years. It is 100% because we're lean spenders in the town, but because we've planned for all of the, this is a year where we're looking at a fire truck and 2 dump trucks, and it's flat. It's flat because we put $10,000 or $20,000 for each of those trucks aside. There are places to cut, but this is just cutting future savings that we need.
And this is my last little question, and this might be a reach. Do you happen to know what, we saw the tax rates for the previous 3 years. You guys happen to have maybe an average fluctuation in the town tax rate for let's say the last 5 to 10 years? Is it
3%? It's 3%.
Yeah. Plus or minus 2-3% type thing?
3%, yeah.
Yeah, so pretty flat.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we have a voter at this microphone.
Jack Crisp, 5 Courier Drive, Bow. I totally agree with what was just said, and I just simply want to make the point that while you may benefit modestly today, you're going to pay for it tomorrow. So you're really not saving anything, you're not accomplishing anything by reducing this as proposed.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak again to the motion to amend? Yes, sir.
Hi, Steve Buckley, 28 Brown Hill Road. Looking at the warrant today, we're spending almost $2.5 million from capital reserve for things we need to buy. That's avoiding hitting the tax rate. That's what capital reserve accounts are for, and I would argue we should defeat this motion.
The motion to amend, yeah. I recognize a voter over here. Yes.
Brian Beach, 4 Pinecrest Drive. Just a question about the reserve itself. Is this at all interest-bearing, the funds that are sitting there? And do you happen to know kind of like what that looks like percentage-wise?
About $500,000 a year.
Thank you.
It's a lot. I think our average over the last year is almost 5% in our interest-bearing accounts. It's a phenomenal program that we have with Merrimack County Savings Bank.
Chris, Mary Beth is good answer.
Are you wanting to speak? Or?
I was just going to answer it. I'm Mary Beth Walls, 25 Stack Drive. I am one of your trustees of the trust funds for the last 13 years. There are 3 of us, and thank you for re-electing me yesterday. But yes, the money, let me just explain very briefly how the money is invested. The money, we have an investment policy that's very conservative, and the money is invested in individual bonds, and we generally don't go more than about 3 or 4 years out. So we're trying to deal with the interest rates that's available at the time we buy them. Most recently, the interest rates were just up. We did pretty well investing with bonds, a little bit higher returns than we've had. But when you stick with bonds, you don't get the kind of returns you get in the market with equities, but you also don't get the losses. And we hold those bonds to maturity, and we never lose money on them, never. So we also get to make a little bit of money on them, usually in the low single digits is the interest. So what it effectively does is we keep up with inflation, maybe a tad bit more, but your money is there. It does allow us to grow the money a little bit by investing it now, so that when you need to pull that money out of the capital reserve fund, it has not only your investment, but a little bit of growth in it as well. And I'll take any questions if anybody has any questions about how we invest that money or what the benefit is to the town.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the motion to amend? So again, the motion to amend is to reduce the total dollar amount in this article by 25%, and then to correspondingly reduce each of the individual fund deposits by 25% to net that out the same amount. So if there's no one else wishes to speak on the motion to amend Article 4, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your voter card. All right, and put them down. And all those opposed to the motion to amend, thank you very much. The vote is clear. The motion to amend fails. Which means we are back to Article 4 as it appears in the warrant. Does anyone wish to speak now to Article 4 as it originally appears, since the amendment failed? If not, we will take a vote. All those in favor of Article 4, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And put them down. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. The yes votes have it. Okay, I've just received a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 4, and it has been seconded. The last time we had a motion to reconsider, someone asked me whether I should have asked for discussion. I certainly will ask if anyone wants to discuss whether or not to pass. Back up. Does anyone wish to discuss the motion to reconsider, or restrict reconsideration? Get it right, Peter. If not, all right, so what we are voting on, if you wish to restrict reconsideration, you'll vote yes. If you don't want to restrict it, you'll vote no. So all those in favor of the motion to restrict, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, raise your cards. Thank you. The motion to restrict passes. When I was younger, it was a lot easier to work all day on Tuesday and come back here on Wednesday night and do these meetings. Anyway, Article 5. Article 5, relative to the purchase of a fire pumper truck. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 5 as it appears in the warrant? And I have a motion and a second from Jack and Harry. And I understand this article will be introduced to us by Select Board Member Elena Colby.
Thanks, Peter. So warrant article number 5 for the pumper truck, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,118,700 for the purchase of a pumper truck for the fire department, and to authorize the withdrawal of $1,118,700 from the fire truck capital reserve fund for this purpose. This truck will replace the current pumper known as Engine 1, which is approximately 16 years old. Engine 1 has spent a significant amount of time out of service in recent years due to various issues. Given the current build time, which is going to take anywhere from 24 to 30 months, the Bow Fire Department and the CIP Committee recommended advancing the scheduled purchase from 2026-27 fiscal year to the upcoming fiscal year 25-26. By the time the town can accept delivery of the new truck, Engine 1 will be closer to 20 years old. Committing to this purchase will also allow for a price freeze. This will help protect the town against a projected 10% cost increase year over year. Funds would come out of the Capital Reserve Fund. There will be no additional tax impact. Chief Como is present and available for additional questions.
Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 5 relative to the purchase of the fire pumper truck? I don't see anybody moving to the microphones or raising their hands, so I'll be happy to move on to a vote. All those in favor of Article 5 as it appears in the warrant, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Passes by card vote. Next article we have in the warrant, Article 6, relative to purchase of six-wheel dump trucks. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 6 as it appears in the warrant? All right, friends. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 6 as it appears? And a second. Okay. Oh, goodness, you can lead a horse to water, right? No. Anyway, so we have a motion and second to adopt Article 6, and Select Board Member Angela Brennan will introduce this article to us.
Thank you, Peter. This article is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $661,000 for the purchase of 2 six-wheel dump trucks and equipment for the Department of Public Works, and to authorize the withdrawal of $661,000 from the Public Works Department Capital Reserve Fund for this purpose. This article will allow us to purchase 2 new dump trucks, which will replace the town's current truck number 3 and 4. I just want to take a moment to appreciate Tim Sweeney and Rick Womble for their work in managing this fleet of dump trucks and all of the equipment at DPW. They do a phenomenal job, and their management of the equipment helps save us money because they're constantly coming up with creative solutions to make sure that our trucks are doing what we need them to do, and they adapt. They're in there welding all sorts of things and making our dump trucks and our fleet work really well. So I really want to say thank you to Tim Sweeney and Rick Womble for that. Truck number 3 is a 2010 International. It's 15 years old. The truck has 82,036 engine hours. And 94,502. It's a frontline plow truck. So it's the one that you're seeing as you're driving around in the snow and keeping our roads clean and clear so we can safely travel. Truck number 4 is a 2009 Freightliner. It's 16 years old. It also has a lot of engine hours and a lot of miles on it. And it's time to replace these vehicles for our DPW. So I'd ask for your support.
Does anyone wish to speak on Article 6? Okay, I don't see anybody moving toward any of the microphones, so I'm happy to put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of Article 6 as it appears in the warrant, please raise your cards. Thank you. And all those opposed, raise your cards. The yes votes have it. The article passes. Okay, Article 7. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 7 as it appears in the warrant relative to annual road paving? I have a motion and a second. I've got 2 motions and 2 seconds to adopt Article 7, and Select Board Member Kip McDaniel will introduce this to us.
So we have around 100 miles of road in Bow, and we try to do annual paving on a 20-year rotational basis, which means we try to do around 5 miles a year. So this article is to vote and raise and appropriate the sum of $565,000 for the reconstruction and paving of town roads. This will be non-lapsing per RSA 3276, and will not lapse until the project is complete or by December 31st, 2029, whatever is sooner. The roads that we plan to work on the next fiscal year are Ferry Road, Heidi Lane, Nancy Drive, Dean Avenue, Aaron Drive, Betty Lane, and Rosewood Drive. And then I'd say, talking to Tim Sweeney, our DPW head, if we let roads get really bad, it costs a lot more to repair them than following this 20-year rotational schedule. We also have remaining funds from the current fiscal year to cover any additional costs over and above the $565,000 that we will vote to raise and appropriate tonight. And myself, or more likely Tim Sweeney, can answer any questions relating to this article and paving in our town.
Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 7? I don't see anybody moving toward the microphones, so I'd be happy to put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of Article 7 as it appears in the warrant, raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed? And the article passes by cards. Next article, Article 8, relative to a transfer to the Community Building Capital Reserve Fund. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 8 as appears in the warrant? I do, and a second. I have a motion and second. And Select Board Member Chris Nicolopoulos will introduce this to us.
Thank you, Peter. You may remember this article from last year. Last year, as part of our planning for a future home for our community building, we started putting in a separate capital reserve fund dedicated to this purpose, money aside. Last year, there were 2 warrant articles that went towards that, a $500,000 warrant article that matches this, which is raised through general fund revenue, and later there'll be one for $150,000, as there was last year, to move it from the rec revolving fund into the Community Building Capital Reserve Fund. The current community building is on its, we've been coupling it together for a number of years. At some point, we're going to need to either drastically update that building or build a new one, and this is the start of planning for that. Thanks.
Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 8? All right, I don't see anyone moving to the microphone, so we'll take a vote. All those in favor of Article 8 as it appears, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And those opposed? Okay, the yes votes have it. The article passes. All right, next article is Article 9, relative to a deposit to the Community Building Capital Reserve Fund. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 9 as it appears? Yep. And a second. I have a motion and a second to adopt Article 9, and Selectman Chris is going to introduce this one to us as well.
I don't blame you with that last name. Thanks, Peter.
I spent one whole meeting leaving a syllable out, and he teased me mercilessly afterwards.
I think I was Nicopolis that meeting.
That's right.
So I foreshadowed this one. This is a request to permit the town to move $150,000 from the rec revolving fund into the community building CRF. 5 years ago now, we asked for permission to buy a boat rec. and the town over a 2-year period, over 2 budgets, paid the full list price for Bow Rec. As a result of that, the Bow Rec department, which is completely self-funded through their own rec revolving fund, has continued to amass a little bit more reserves each year. They're running at about a positive $100,000 a year of net surplus. They've built up a little bit, and we're asking you to move $150,000 of that to the community building CRF as a small token in an effort to repay the town for the tremendous commitment you gave to Bow Rec to purchase that building. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to take a second to say to Darcy and her team that they've done a phenomenal job. It couldn't have gone any better than it has. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 9? Yes.
Matt Poulin, 20 Hampshire Hills Drive. Peter, I'm going to throw you for a little bit of curveball here. Ben Canary's not able to be here tonight. He's pretty ill at home. He was the writer of Article 19 that we're supposed to speak about later tonight. In doing a little bit of research and working with some of the counterparts in town, I realized that this article is probably not worded as appropriate as I'd like it. I mean, the essence of what we're trying to do is...
Are you speaking to Article 9 or 19?
I'm speaking to this one, I'm
Okay.
leading up to what I'd like to do, Peter. Sorry, I have to preface it a little bit. I mean, the essence of Ben's warrant article, and I'll get to my recommendation in a minute, but the point of that warrant article of the town now operates a business with significant profit. I originally met with the Morrisons when I was on the board, and we worked this whole thing out. And at the time, I worked it down to about $3,000 that, give or take, that we were going to profit on this venture. And it's worked out to be very profitable for the town. The profit is currently expended at the sole discretion of the town manager. Under the Recreation Revolving Fund established by the taxpayers over a decade ago, the taxpayers need to have input on how these monies are spent. To be clear, we are not talking about all funds in the Recreational Revolving Fund. This is specific to the profits of the daycare services provided. The profit should be placed in a fund that taxpayers have some level of control or otherwise offset the taxes. So rather than, and it looks like it might be a long meeting, getting to 19 and trying to explain what we were doing there, I just kind of did. So what I'm hoping to do is this warrant article would, if we were to amend the amounts, would kind of do exactly what we were trying to do with Article 19. So I would like to make a motion that we amend this article to $250,000. And at that point, I'll withdraw Article 19.
Okay. The pauses are just, I like to keep notes here. It's just one of the ways that I keep myself on track here. So as I understand it, you are making a motion to amend Article 9 to increase the stated amount from $150,000 to $250,000, was that?
Yes.
250, okay. And obviously, in both places, so the transfer from the revolving fund would be $250,000, okay.
From the recreational revolving fund.
Right.
Right.
I know that there are all sorts of restrictions and limits on votes on transfers from revolving funds and capital reserves. Amending the dollar amount, Eric, that one isn't a problem, is it?
No, not amending the dollar amount, and this is a mirror of what was of a similar article from 2024, which passed without issue.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that we didn't trip up any legal issues.
None of this one.
So okay. So now that we understand the motion, is there a second to that motion?
Yeah, it was already seconded.
Oh, there is. Okay. And you have the second? Okay. Great. So we have a motion and a second to amend the article to state a dollar amount of $250,000 in both places where $150,000 now appears. Does anyone wish to speak on the motion to amend? Yes.
Martin Fitzpatrick, 1 Parsons Way. Could you explain that? I'm not following. I don't understand what we're doing in this amendment and why we're doing it.
We can recommend that it not be passed.
Yeah, you can speak.
Oops. I apologize. Town council and I were consulting. Can I ask you to repeat it?
I'm asking for an explanation of like why we're doing this. I don't follow. I don't understand what the amendment is meant to accomplish. I'm just not following it.
All right, I'll ask the gentleman who made the motion to amend, if he could explain a little more clearly.
Again, Ben's the one who originated the article, but if you followed the profits that we've been making off the rec center, the revolving fund, you have to go all the way back to when we moved the rec department into the revolving fund. The rec department was we were funding the rec department, the town was, and we moved it into the revolving fund. At the time, we were not anticipating a $40,000 profit every month on the daycare center that we're basically running over there. So with those profits, they've put an elevator in, they've put a generator in, they put a playground in. That came from the profits. So we're significantly making some money there, and I'd like to turn it around and give it back to the taxpayers so that we have a say in how that money is spent.
So it's not just going into the general fund, it's staying within the rec department, is that the point?
Try not to confuse, right, and it's a little convoluted. There's a recreational fund and the general fund. This is the rec fund, the profits that are coming out of the Bow Rec Center.
Okay. It's getting a little dicey. I usually don't like conversations going across rather than front and back, but given that the person with the answers is up there, we got to slide with the situation. Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes, Brian Beach, 4 Pinecrest Drive. I guess my first question is going to be a couple parts here. One is elevating this from 150,000 to 250,000. Is that going to put us at a deficit in that fund that he's looking to pull money from?
No.
Okay.
Even with pretty conservative budget estimates, I believe there will be, and I apologize, I was looking at my phone because I was looking for their budget. The budget surplus for end of next year would still be, would then be $100,000. It's currently projected to be $250,000.
Okay, thank you.
It wouldn't be a deficit.
I think that answers my question. I understand what the gentleman on the left is trying to do. It seems like we don't have any oversight currently on expenditures exceeding a certain dollar amount from the rec center, so.
And so the rec revolving fund, which I think was adopted in 2013, if my memory serves me right, I'm 1 year or one way or another off by a year. Rec revolving fund was approved at a town meeting just like this. David Stack was that's in the row, David Stack was, at that time, authorized to be the agent to expend. Now, I've been here, again, 9 years. I'm the oldest. I've been on the select board the longest, so I'm going to keep bringing that up tonight. And I'm the oldest. And so in the 9 years that we've been here, David Stack has never exercised his authority as agent to expend without coming to the Board of Selectmen for support of any plan to spend any of those funds, and that's just good practice. And ultimately, I understand what the motion, what Ben's warrant article was. He was looking to put some constraints on how that money could be spent that's sitting in the rec revolving fund. Now I'm going to put my hat on as a citizen. If you gave me the option to have Ben's warrant article, which is kind of convoluted and difficult to understand, that's at the end of tonight, or this amendment, I will take this amendment. That I understand, and we can move forward with it. The decision about whether or not you want to tie up this $100,000 for the future community building or leave it in the rec revolving fund to be managed as the rec revolving fund has been managed is your vote.
Last question. How much money did we generate from the rec department last year after the purchase?
121,000 for fiscal year 23-24, and I think that this year is projected as a loss of 129, but that's including estimating the offset of the 150,000, so it would be a surplus of 30, or it is a deficit of 129, but we're accounting for the $150,000 transfer, so it would have been a surplus of 20.
Thank you.
Anyone, looks like a voter at this microphone, I'll recognize him.
Hi, Peter, thank you, Anthony Foote. Chris, I didn't catch all of it, I was talking about.
Please identify yourself.
Anthony Foote, 3 Logging Hill Road. Chris, did you talk about Article 19, so people understand that's what he's comparing to?
I was comparing my personal view of Article 19 as compared to the amended article here.
So is everybody aware that if you go to Article 19, Matt's referring to that warrant article as the one that we would amend, or?
No, we're amending, he has amended
He's
this
amending this one
article
based off of?
with a promise that he would remove that
Is
later.
everybody clear with that? Okay, I want to make sure. It's a little different because I think you talked about David being able to allocate funds and restricting him, so that was kind of a big change if that happens.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on the motion? Oh, yes.
I just want to state for the record that Darcy Little manages this Bow Rec facility and keeps in mind the budget that she has and makes sure that she's spending money wisely. The money that goes into the rec revolving fund is money that is spent by users of the Bow Rec, and it's important to recognize that the users of Bow Rec who send their kids to this daycare are the ones that are paying the money to go into this fund. So it's important to remember that we all are having control over this fund by transferring the money of $150,000 to the Capital Reserve Fund, but to suddenly jump from 150 to 250,000 does create some constraints on the budgeting process for the Bow Rec facility. And we need to be very careful about making sudden changes like this when we have already gone through a very long process of planning appropriately for our budget, for our savings, and all of that. And so for me, as a citizen, I could not possibly support this motion.
Peter? If I may, I want to remind everybody, when we decided on purchasing the building and run that rec department, it was a promise to be paid back to the town. We are doing it ever so slowly, so it's basically a debt that we're calling due here, and they are making enough money in order to cover this.
I would also just like to point out that it is still benefiting the taxpayers, all of us, because the entire operating budget for the rec department, including the folks that work at the community building when you are there playing pickleball and doing yoga, that entire budget is covered by the user fees generated from people using the rec center camp. So we are benefiting every year in our budget by not having to raise and appropriate approximately $300,000 to cover the rec center.
Okay. Looks like we have a voter at this microphone. Recognize you.
39 Allen Road, Bo, again. So Chris, I was here last year, and we make this similar transfer every year, correct? Or we at least did last year, correct?
This will be year 2, yeah.
So effectively, this is to answer to the previous citizen's statement about repaying the town. This is effectively repaying the town by transferring it into the Capital Reserve Fund, correct?
Yes. To be clear, Matt used much stronger words than I used when I asked for permission to buy this property, because I got to sit here when we made those. The hope and aspiration was that someday we would be able to replace those funds. It wasn't a debt, and it isn't a debt. But, am I keeping an accounting in my head? Yes.
And to speak directly to that assertion, this is effectively repaying any perceived debt that we might have, correct?
This is putting money back into savings that we took out of savings to purchase this building, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And we have a voter at this microphone I'll recognize.
Hi, my name is Brian Lemire. I live at 9 Risingwood Drive. Maybe I'm the only one who missed this. I hope not. Can you just clarify what happens to Amendment 19? I'm sorry, Article 19, if we vote for this amendment?
We can't say for now what will happen to Article 19. Mr. Poulin, who is the representative of that, represented that he would ask for it to be pulled when it's appropriate time. In fact, if this were to pass, I would recommend that he move that out of order and pull it so that it could be put to bed for the night.
Okay, thank you.
Probably put a little bit of a technical gloss on that. We can't really pull an article, but I think what we would do, we'd address the article, but with the proponent recommending that you all defeat it.
Peter, when I said pull, I just meant advance it so we could vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
now.
But, okay. And we have a voter at this microphone.
Meredith Kropp, 21 Jonathan Lane. Going to the point of what Angela Brennan was saying, I really feel that we right now have had as a town meeting, have not had any real study of the budget of the rec center and what their plans are for the coming year. Without having that information, I think it is rather reckless to just say, let's take another $100,000 out of our rec center budget, which most of us in the town, I think many of us really enjoy, from young children programs to, I know I do yoga and people do some of the senior programs that they offer. So I really think that we have to trust the fact that they've been managing this program very well so far, and that every year now we're looking at putting more money in the town budget from there, but doing it on a conservative basis. And I think that jumping $100,000 without really having the proper knowledge and understanding of that budget would be a big mistake.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard on this article? Oh, boy, I'm in trouble.
What do you say?
Deborah MZ, 609 Page Road in Bow. I just want to clarify, I'm not sure that everybody knows we're talking about two different things, and I want to make sure that I understand. The rec center is different from the community center. So when you talk about programs at the community building, that's pickleball and yoga and archery and all that. The rec center is the daycare across from the school. Am I right in that?
No.
Okay.
Well, first off, it's not a daycare.
Well,
It's an after-school program, it's a
Okay.
before-school program,
Okay. So I
it's
thought
a
somebody
preschool.
said daycare.
Yeah, I know, but they said it a lot, and so I finally thought we should clarify that.
I just think we need to do some clarifying.
All of those programs, whether it's pickleball or the Profits from Young at Heart or the Profits from Yoga, or the summer camp that's held at the community center, or the summer camp that's held at the Bow Rec Center, all of those programs, the revenue goes into the revolving fund. We've had this since 2013, and the reason we use revolving fund for a rec department is so that they can be dynamic. If 100 kids sign up for summer camp and pay the fee, or 50 or 300, Darcy needs to be able to hire the right people, buy enough balls, whatever the resources are related to that. Until 2021, the rec department was a net cost to the taxpayers. We had a appropriation in 2021 of a net appropriation of tax dollars to the rec center of $61,000. Back in 2013, it was a tax assessment of $200. So we were paying, even despite having a revolving fund, it was costing somewhere between $200 down to $60,000 in 21. We now have because of the purchase of BOREC, we now have a positive surplus, and it's a successful program, and it allows Darcy and her team to be super dynamic. It's awesome.
So could I just ask one more follow-up? So Angela said she would not vote for it. How do the other people feel? And is it fair for me to ask the other select board? I know you haven't talked about this.
The select board doesn't have a vote, right? The select board hasn't voted together on this.
To me, I don't see a disadvantage to it, because then the community building will get more money, but there must be a disadvantage.
I think this is phenomenally better than Article 19, because that's going to make it hard for us to do the work of the revolving fund. So
I am still neutral, so if anyone wants to continue this conversation, that would be wonderful. Right now, I am neutral because I haven't seen the figures, and that is just the only concerning thing to me. But in theory.
Okay.
For me, this feels a little bit haphazard. The budgeting process in this town is very thorough. there is a lot of people who go line by line and discuss. You'd almost laugh at the minutia that is brought up in some of these meetings. So for this to be sort of thrown around at this minute, when we've gone through that entire process, it strikes me as haphazard, and I'm not going to commit to vote either way, but that's my sense of this amendment.
Okay, typically, we don't have people speak until all voters have a chance to speak once, so I know I've seen some repeats here, but you haven't spoken yet, so I'll recognize this voter.
Catherine Berg, 112 Knox Road. I guess just if we leave the extra $100,000 here, I mean, I know Darcy, I trust Darcy. We don't really seem to have a full plan for what we're doing with the community building yet. So it seems to make more sense. We can always move it next year. However, like I agree with Chris Nicolopoulos, Article 19 is super duper vague. I'm not in favor of that or of this amendment. And like Kip said, like they're good at budgeting, they're good at looking ahead. We can always look at moving additional money to the Community Building Capital Fund at a later point in time.
Okay. And again, remember, we're talking about the motion to amend at this point in time, so if you have comments on the motion to amend, recognize you. Yes.
Jean Jarelskis, 61 Woodhill Hooksett Road in Bow. When I read that, whatever that something 19 was, I was really confused, and I thought, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And now putting it onto Article 9, I'm still wondering, what is the problem we're trying to solve? It seems like this is a great idea to move the $150,000. It's been well studied, and the other funds, it's good to have some flexibility in your revolving fund. So I don't understand what brought us to the point where we've got to take the money out and stick it somewhere else. It's confusing to me.
Given the fact that Mr. Canary's not here today, and he called me about this, I'll tell you what he was concerned about. Mr. Canary heard a select board meeting where there was a discussion about spending some money to get engineered plans to build an addition that had initially been estimated at $600,000, in addition to the Bow Rec Center. It was an addition to do storage and an office. That $600,000 number shocked everybody, and ultimately the view of this Board of Selectmen was to spend the $25,000 so that they could get an accurate number for what an addition might cost. But the record that happened that night was we want to spend $25,000 and an addition could cost $600,000. Now, I don't think a storage room and an office aren't going to cost $600,000. And so the question was, are they spending $600,000 from the revolving fund? And if so, how do we control spending from a revolving fund? This is, warrant 19 is the product of that fear.
And one of the things that's happening here, we're conflating the two articles, and one of the things they teach you in moderator school, don't let happen as much as possible, keep people on track. I know it's almost impossible to talk about 9 without talking about 19, but again, for purposes of comments right now, the comments are, we have a motion to amend 9 to increase the amount to $250,000. Does anyone wish to speak on the motion to amend? You wish to speak on the motion to amend, sir?
Yes, Phil Vecchione, Mr. Michelle, 51 Brown Hill Road in Bow. Just to be clear, on page 54, it says the Recreation Fund, that's what we're talking about, correct? And it says that if we took out $150,000, we still end up with $217,000. But mysteriously, there's $500,000 for an addition. So I'm anticipating that Ben was talking about that type of money being spent without a warrant article because it's in a revolving fund, and the rec department, along with the board, can go ahead and spend $500,000, correct?
If any of us want to be
so I-
elected in the future, we probably would not do that.
But yes.
Probably.
That would be a really bad idea.
Yeah, so that's the point of this, is that there's money coming in, and Darcy's doing a fantastic job. We're making a lot of money up the street for the, what did you call it? It's not a daycare center, it's a
It's a
after-school.
for and after-school program. It's a
After-school program, she's doing great, but I think the intent of this is to take some of that money and say, leave it up to the town voters on how they want to spend it. So this is going towards, the amendment is going towards the future rec building, or, but in essence, we could vote to say, take that money and put it towards the general fund, or put it towards a fire truck or anything else. There's a $217,000 plus another $5, correct?
The nature of the revolving fund will not legally allow us to do that.
The voters can do that, though, correct?
No.
I think for the money that is in the CRF, the CIP fund, that cannot come out without another vote of this town meeting.
Good. Okay, so again, to the $500,000, what is that?
That is a placeholder for an addition.
A placeholder. It's
For
showing
a-
as an expenditure, $500,000?
Yeah, I think it is
I'm on
a,
page 54 for the 25-26 year. The 150, I'm assuming, is the base, what we're talking about. But there's another number of $500,000, which, if we're not doing that, it says there's going to be $717,000 after the 150. So another 100 is really not going to lower that by that much. But I'm still confused on what that $500,000 is.
the Board of Selectmen authorized a $25,000 expenditure so they could get engineered plans, so they could figure out what that actual cost is. We haven't seen those numbers. The highest number I've seen is 600. I've heard 200. Who knows?
Okay, so that's not an expenditure, it's just somebody's estimate.
Yes.
So we really will end up with $700,000.
I think
Without the
700,000 minus 150 that's already been
Right.
allocated, minus if tonight that's allocated, I think we end up just under 500.
Great, so with
So if
that in mind, I fully support moving ahead with this amendment. Thank you.
Cheryl, would you then have to take the operating budget out of that figure as well? Would you have to take the operating budget out of that figure?
The operating budget for Darcy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so again, we're talking about the motion to amend. Anyone wish to speak on the motion to amend? I'll recognize.
She was here before me. Oh, she's a repeat.
Yep.
Mike Wayne, 153 Bobog Road. We're talking about two different buildings. The community building, CRF, and the Bow Rec Center. Now, if we move 100,000 from the revolving fund into this fund, can we expend any money out of this fund to update the rec center?
If we were to take, if the amendment were to pass and we were to move $250,000 out of the Bow Rec Fund, it would make it difficult for the Bow Rec Fund to get the storage needs that they're seeking to find more information about, so that with that $25,000 that Chris referenced, so that we all could come back next year and discuss potentially, possibly, maybe spending money for the Bow Rec Center, not the community building, to address their needs appropriately and make well-informed decisions. But to take $250,000, which is a brand-new number that has not been factored into any planning or budgeting throughout this whole year would make it detrimental to the functioning of the Bow Rec program and addressing their future needs this year or next year or in the future. It really puts them at a really strong disadvantage when we still don't know what the outcome is going to be for the plans of the community center building.
Understand.
Angela, could you just clarify that you're speaking as Angela, a voter, and not as the select board? Because those are not positions of the select board as I understand them.
My apologies. I am speaking as an individual citizen, which I do retain despite being a select board member, but I am speaking as an informed citizen who has this information based on serving on the select board and speaking with and working with our department heads who have provided lots of information so that I can pass that information along to you so that we can all make informed decisions.
Okay, I just wanted to make the point that if the money comes from the revolving fund into the community building, they can't spend that money on the rec center. It has to be spent on the community building.
Yes.
Okay, motion to amend. We're still talking about the motion to amend, which is the motion to amend to increase the 150 to 250,000. Anybody wish to speak on the motion to amend? Oh, you're up first. Who hasn't spoken already? Yes.
Yes, Kate Russo, 17 Stack Drive. I just, we have this beautiful after-school program that's being run by Darcy, correct? And it seems like it's making money for the town. You know, we will be able to have money next year for this. And if we're going to restrict how she's able to run the very lucrative after-school programs, and it doesn't need to be fixed. There's going to be more money coming in. Why are we going to have Darcy make, cuts in her budget or what she needs to do, and she's trying to get a storage unit in and things like that? I don't understand why we're doing this now. We have $150,000 that's going to go to the community center. Now you want to make it $250,000, and it just seems we have so many. We've elected all these people who know what they're doing. I don't understand why we're doing this now. Can someone address that? I don't.
And understand that this amendment isn't ours, right? This amendment is coming from a citizen warrant Article 19 that is being amended. What I think you need to understand, to the extent that I can speak to a citizen who's not here because he's sick, is his position is there shouldn't be $600,000 sitting in a revolving fund that can be expended by one person. That's the question.
That's the question. Okay. I just feel like if it's going to affect how you're running the after-school program, that's something to think about. If it's not going to affect that, but it seems like we don't know. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you. This has certainly generated a lot more conversation than I thought it would. I know folks are at the mic. Folks wish to speak again. They've spoken already. I guess I will respectfully ask, do you really have anything new to add to what's been said already? Okay, we'll keep going. I'll recognize the voter at this microphone.
Meredith Kropp, 21 Jonathan Lane. I do have something totally new to say. We've talked a lot about this article and also Article 19, and I want to say that although they're talking about a similar concern, they are not actually. If you vote on one, it doesn't mean that you don't vote on the other, or, if this amendment were to pass, that doesn't mean 19 won't pass also or won't be voted on. So these are not mutually exclusive articles, so I don't want everyone to be confused that, you're making a trade-off here. You're not, really. They're really two different things based on the same concern. Is that correct?
Okay. Yes, I agree with you. It's correct. They're two different articles, and the meeting has to act on both articles. Yes, sir, you'd like to speak one more time?
Yes, Peter, sorry, Anthony Foot, 3 Logging Hill Road. First was, if our board members at the table, should they come here to speak as a citizen rather than speak from the table? Just for point of order.
Good question. Yep, a good question. I'll talk to them in the future about it.
No problem. And then Philip made a very good point, and I think Chris has also highlighted again, Mr. Knuckleopoulos has highlighted again, the concern on this, between the conflation, is if it's $500,000 this year and we make another $500,000 next year, it could be $1.5 million in 3 years, and we as voters cannot affect that money. That money's out of our control. The only people who can affect it, and I think if I'm understanding it correctly.
We're talking about the motion to amend here, sir.
Right,
and it's just a question of, do we change it from $150,000 to $250,000?
Well, just for clarification on comments made by previous speakers, the revolving fund is controlled by who and?
There's two answers to that question. The agent to expend from the revolving fund is David Stack. The revolving fund is both controlled by David Stack and this meeting. We are about to vote on $150,000 or $250,000 to move it from there. So in some respects, both. But David Stack is the agent to expend.
Is there any restriction on, could Dave spend $500,000 without us?
Yes.
Okay, that's the concern.
Thank you.
But keep in mind, they come to us with the smallest things. It's not, they don't just.
He's never has.
Dagger.
Peter, just wrapping up, this came, Ben's article came out of the January 14th meeting, where it was a 4-to-1 vote to expend $25,103 on an RFP for an addition to this building. So when we see what's in those funds, that's where Ben was worried how that money was going to be spent. As you just pointed out, David is the one who has the authority to spend that money. What this is trying to do is give all of you the authority to spend this money. If you want to vote against the amendment, that's fine. We're still going to vote on $150,000. Article 19 was trying, and I think it was poorly worded, and that's why there's an effort by me to withdraw it, so that we can maybe look at it again next year to give you guys more say in how that recreational revolving fund money is spent. That's what we're trying to do, is give you more say. How this is going to be detrimental to the rec center is beyond me. They have plenty of money. We were told when we first bought this they were making $42,000 a month. It may not be the same today, but that's what we were told when I was on the board by Jeff Ruggles. But lastly, we talk about setting money aside. We're going to have to do something with the community center. I don't know if any of you know this. Community center had no running hot water for 6 months. It had one broken sink. We ran 2 events there for the men's club with no hot water. It may have it now. I'm not sure. Yeah. I was told that they'd spent all the money for that building.
Matt, can we get back on topic, please?
Yeah, well, my point being is, if we set money aside for the community center today, we're just going to have to do it later on anyways. We're talking about with the fire trucks, right. So anyways.
I would just like to clarify, too, we don't have to move this to $250,000 to vote against Article 19. The petitioners can just remove Article 19, clean it up, and we can address it again next year. I don't want people to think that that this is some trade, that you have to do $250,000 or we won't withdraw this motion, this warrant article.
And there's also nothing preventing the board from looking into the matter further to address some of the concerns that have been raised by some of the commenters and the petitioners for Article 19. The Select Board is more than willing to explore some options for how we might address those concerns of how we manage the rec revolving fund. But that's not what we're talking about now. Right now we're talking about an amendment that is changing Article 9 from $150,000 that we have all carefully studied and planned for, and moving it to $250,000. And I think it might be time to call the question.
Yeah. Okay. We've had a motion to call the question. There's only one voter at a microphone right now, so I guess, assuming you're the last one who's going to speak on the motion to amend, we skip the vote on calling the question for now.
Yeah, is this on? Okay. Steve Hebert, 6 Cardinal Drive. Peter, I was supposed to work with you yesterday. I apologize. Didn't make it back in time. But my question is pretty simple to put this to rest. We're just talking about moving an extra $150,000 from the revolving fund to the CRF, correct? The
An extra 100.
100,000, sorry. So for a total of 250. And in your best judgment, if we did that, are we going to be in a deficit running the rec center next year? Will any programs suffer by doing that?
No one
the
can
most
possibly answer
conservative,
that
I have the budget for
responsibly.
25-26, which
I'm just asking you to just base an answer on how the last 2 years have gone. Will there be enough money left in that account?
Yes.
I mean, understanding
Yes.
no, asteroids hit
Yes, not even a question.
Okay. That was it.
That
Thank
is
you.
an opinion.
Well, I'm looking at a budget that says there'd be 257,000. That budget for 25-26, I think, includes a projected but yet not approved addition. So the answer is yes.
Okay. All right. Just keeping in the spirit of the non-calling the question. So what we have before us, again, time out, review the bidding, is a motion to amend Article 9 to revise both appearances of the number $150,000 to read $250,000. So if you want to change the number as it appears in the article, you're going to vote in favor of the motion to amend. So let's take the vote on that. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your cards. Thank you. Keep them up. Keep them up. I just want to get a mental set. Okay, please put them down. And all those opposed to the motion to amend. All right, it's close enough. I think I want to count. Assistants, I'm putting you to work. So all those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your cards until my assistant has counted your section of the auditorium, please. Which section? 6. 6. Okay, well, oops, let's place this over here.
13 and 5.
Okay.
Section 4, those 4.
Choose 3, 39.
Oh, for what, 2 and 3? Did you say 39? I think you did, yeah. Yep, okay. Thank you very much. And now, all those opposed to the motion, please raise your cards.
Section 6.
Okay. Gotcha.
21.
And 4, right?
The same sections.
How did you end up counting 2? Do I have? Oh, we got to.
The board, we have 4.
And 1 yes? 1 yes. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, based on the count of the vote cards, the vote in favor of the motion to amend was 54, the vote against was 85, so the motion to amend fails. And so now we have the article as it appears in the warrant is before us, since the motion to amend failed. Does anybody still have something to say about Article 9? Are you getting up to speak, sir, or heading to the John? Okay, that's fine. Sorry, didn't mean to embarrass you. So we got Article 9, as it appears in the warrant, is now before us. I'm assuming that everybody has talked out about it. I don't see anybody standing at the mic, so I think we're ready to take a vote on Article 9 as it appears in the warrant. All those in favor of Article 9 as it appears, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All those opposed, raise your cards. The yes votes clearly have it, so the article passes as it appears. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to restrict reconsideration of Article 9. Get my note-taking, catch up with my mouth here. There we go. Does anybody wish to speak on the motion to restrict reconsideration? If not, let's take a quick vote on that. All those in favor of the motion to restrict reconsideration, thank you very much. All those opposed? Okay, the yes votes clearly have it. It passes. Yeah. I'm going to suggest something that might be radical, or people might view it as refreshing. Since we've pretty much exhausted our discussion of Article 19, would you like to take Article 19 out of order, deal with it right now, and get it over with, rather than putting it off to the end of the night? Okay, I'll just exercise. No, oh no, that's right. I'm going to exercise moderator's prerogative to change the order, because I think it's the best way to run the meeting. You folks, as the meeting, can always overrule my decision by raising a point of order and voting to overrule and say, no, we're not doing 19 now. But if nobody does that in the next 30 seconds, we're going to start talking about Article 19. There we go. Okay.
I don't know if it's point of order, but if you give us more time to reword this on Ben's behalf, to withdraw this article. Can we do that now?
All right. I think the...
It's going to get more convoluted.
Sure. I understand. The reason I'm hesitating, I think there isn't an option for one person to withdraw a petitioned article. I think you can recommend to the Assembly, that you, as one of the petitioners, recommend that the article be defeated. And my guess is that might be enough to move the meeting to defeat it, and then you can just bring it up again next year. So I'm happy if we get a motion and a second on this, I'll recognize you as the first speaker, and then you can make that statement if you would like. You want to proceed? Okay. All right. Article 19, the petitioned article, appears in the warrant. It is on the screen in front of you right now. You've heard a lot about it already, but let's get it on the floor anyway. Do we have a motion and a second to adopt Article 19? Come on, you can move in second even ones you don't like. All right, good. We've got our motion in second. So Article 19 is on the floor, and I will recognize Mr. Poulin, who would like to speak at the microphone.
Matt Poulin, 20 Hampshire Hills Drive. On Ben's behalf, we'd like to withdraw the article.
Well,
I won't make a motion to withdraw the article?
No.
My apologies, Peter.
I don't know that you can withdraw it. I think you can urge your fellow citizens to
just
vote against it, to defeat it.
Yeah, and I think this gives us another year to reword this a little more appropriately.
I think everyone would appreciate that. Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 19 after that? Okay, so Article 19 is before us, and as you've heard, the representatives of the folks who petitioned the article have indicated they would like the article to be defeated so they can rework it for next year. So with that in mind, I'd ask all of the assembled voters, all those in favor, if you want to let the petitioners have more time, you're going to vote to defeat the article. You're not going to pass it. So all those in favor of Article 19 as it appears in the warrant, please raise your cards. Great. All those opposed to Article 19, please, okay, good. The article is defeated. Good. And I'm always one looking for efficiency, and I thank the petitioners. I thank Mr. Poulin for that gesture to help us move forward and to take care of the town's business, so thank you. Okay, so now we're at Article 10 in the warrant relative to, whoops. Oh, okay. Well, you folks are really getting on the bandwagon with these restrictions, aren't you? Yeah. All right, let me just, okay. So we have a motion and a second to restrict reconsideration of Article 19. I assume nobody wants to vote to speak on it, and we'll just take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed, raise your cards. Okay, reconsideration is restricted. Okay, now 10? 10, relative to purchase of an ambulance. Do I have a motion and to adopt Article 10 as it appears in the warrant? Yes, we do. I have a motion and second, and Select Board Member Elena Colby will introduce this to us.
Hi, friends. All right. Warrant Article number 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $462,000 for the purchase of an ambulance for the fire department, and to authorize the withdrawal of $462,000 from the fire truck capital reserve fund for this purchase. The Bow Fire Department plans to replace ambulance A1, which was purchased in 2013. A1 has accumulated over 7,400 engine hours and is a two-wheel drive model. The proposed replacement will feature four-wheel drive, which the department believes will enhance safety and reliability when serving patients. The estimated ambulance fee revenue for the town of Bow is anywhere between $280,000 and $295,000 annually. The current lead time for the purchase is also long, like the fire truck. It's going to take between 18 and 24 months to receive. The fire department hopes to receive the new ambulance by 2027. By committing to this purchase, the town can secure a price freeze, protecting against yearly cost increases. The CIP committee, budget committee, and the Board of Selectmen have all recommended proceeding with the acquisition. Funds would come out of the capital reserve fund, so there would be no additional tax impact.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 10? I don't see anyone, so let's take a vote. All those in favor of Article 10 as it appears, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And those opposed, raise your cards. Okay, the article passes by card vote. Which brings us to Article 11, relative to replacement of the HVA system at the library. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 11? All right, we have a motion and a second. Okay, to adopt Article 11. And it's my understanding that representatives of the library trustees will be here. I think Mr. Arnold and our new librarian, Caitlin. Well, she'll introduce herself. I'm going to murder her name if I try to, and I'll say it wrong, and that's the worst thing I can do. So I'll recognize those folks to introduce the article to you.
All right. We'd like to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $85,700 for the replacement of the HVAC system at the Baker Free Library, and to authorize the withdrawal of $85,700 from the Library Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund for this purpose. I'd like to point out that we installed a generator this year, so that is our emergency emergency shelter. So this past week in those high winds, I think a lot of us lost power. If you were a long time without power, you could go to the library and stay warm and use the facilities. So that's the other service that the library offers to the community. I'd also like to recognize Eric Anderson, and we appreciate that we put the library on the front and back cover of the report. And I'm pleased to be here today at this town meeting with our new library director.
So I was just going to clarify a couple of things about this HVAC system. So there's many components to an HVAC system. The ones that we're going to hopefully address with this article are the air handlers in the library. As of October, half of our air handlers were down. We're having issues with leaking, and we've spent almost $4,000 just in maintenance of those air handlers and different things that have kind of trickled down from that since July. So we ask that you support this article. Oh, Caitlin Camage, the new director. Yes, yes.
That's great. If you haven't met Caitlin, make a point of meeting her. She's a great new addition to our town. So anyone wish to speak on this article? I got to be careful. I'm going to sound like I'm politicking up here. I shouldn't be. Article 11, anyone wish to speak? I don't see anyone going to the microphone, so we can go to a vote. All those in favor of Article 11 as appears, raise your cards. Look at that, you're before me. And all those opposed? Okay, the article passes. Thank you. Okay, I guess we're in AC mode here, aren't we? Article 12, relative to Public Works Facility air conditioning. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 12 as it appears in the warrant? And a second? And a second. Thank you very much. And Selectman Ian Flanagan is going to, my tongue's getting tired, introduce this article to us.
Thank you, Peter. The DPW facility is serviced by 5 heating systems, and they're all original to 1987. The front office space is currently served by a rooftop propane heat and AC unit, including the DPW Director's Office, the Administrative Assistance Offices, and the SAU Bus Transportation Office. This project includes the installation of a new heat and AC mini-split units in these offices, plus the employee break room and locker room. This is one of the components of a larger plan to install new ventilation and heating systems in the garage area and fleet manager's office area.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard on this Article 12? All right, not seeing anyone. All those in favor of 12, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All those opposed? Okay, the article passes. Okay, Article 13, relative to LED lighting upgrade. Do I have a motion and a second? A motion and second to adopt Article 13. I understand that special comments will be made by Select Board Member Angela Brennan on this one.
Thank you, Peter. This article that's before you, I'm going to ask you to vote no on it. We have since learned new information since the articles were drafted. It was not recommended by the Budget Committee. That's fine. We have discovered new ways to save money with LED lighting in a different way that isn't going to cost us $46,400 as requested in this warrant article, and so I'm going to ask you to vote no on this article.
Bet that's the first time you've ever heard that. Does anyone, after that, does anyone wish to be heard? Okay, so knowing the recommendation from the Select Board, we'll take a vote on Article 13. All those in favor of Article 13, as it appears. Yeah, it's kind of like Mother May I, you got to be careful. Yeah, all right. And all those opposed to Article 13, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Oh, my God. And Article 14, relative to Facilities Department work truck. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Article 14? Yes, okay, I have my motion and my second, and I think a Select Board Member Brennan is going to sing a similar song on this one.
You betcha. So Article 14 is seeking to address the needs of the Building and Facilities Department in purchasing a vehicle. We have since started exploring other options that will help the department meet their needs for an additional vehicle so that an employee does not have to use their own vehicle, which we've been told is a liability. We are continuing to look at utilizing current budget numbers instead of seeking to raise $41,400. And so I'm going to ask you to vote no on this so that we can save some money and still meet the needs of our Building and Facilities Department.
Okay. Yes, you may. I know what's coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
In order to make sure that we handle this legally and appropriately, I'm going to ask for an amendment to change the amount from $41,400 to $1 and ask you to support the change to $1.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, a lot of you are probably saying, what in the heck is going on? And I don't blame you. And I'm going to ask Attorney Eric Maurer to give us a brief explanation of why he cautioned against defeating the article entirety and amending it as appropriate, as recommended.
So my understanding is that the intent is to utilize existing approved monies in the operating budget for a similar acquisition and purpose. And from a legal perspective, there is a rule called the no means no rule, where if you vote down a particular article, you cannot expend monies for that purpose by other means. And so if you were to just completely kill this article, you wouldn't be able to use monies alternatively for the purpose of this article. So that's why if you have a $1 appropriation, it doesn't trigger no means no. You could use other monies elsewhere for this purpose.
And the idea is to keep options open to make sure that we can continue to meet the needs of the Building and Facilities Department responsibly.
So do you all follow that? All follow that? So what we have is a motion to amend, forget that Select Board Member Brennan said defeat the article. She has moved that we amend the dollar amount in the article to read $1. And does anyone wish to speak to the motion to amend? If not, so the first thing we have to do is act on the amendment, and then we'll act on the article if it's amended. So all those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, raise your cards. Thank you very much. The motion to amend passes. And so now we need to address Article 14 as amended. So strike the 4 and strike the zeros, and it's just $1 up there and the article as you see in front of you. Anyone wish to speak on the article as amended? Okay, so all those in favor of Article 14 as amended, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed? So Article 14 as amended passes. Just 1 second, I want to check on something. Okay. Next, we move to Article 15, relative to the collective bargaining agreement with the police and the fire department. Do I have a motion? I have a motion and second to adopt Article 15 as it appears in the warrant. And Selectman Chris, you're going to introduce that to us.
Thank you, Peter. Article 15 represents a hard-fought negotiation with our police and fire to memorialize their first contract. Police and fire voted last year to create and start a union. We worked over the summer and into the fall to find middle ground and bring this contract to you all. This contract represents, the money in this contract, the estimated increase represents the equivalent pay increase that I already presented to you in the budget for the rest of the town employees, which is a 3% year-over-year pay increase. The way it works when you have a contract is, because we had started our budget, we literally reduced employee salary line items in the budget by $38,000 and then put this warrant article there. So the contract with them is a fair contract. It memorializes all our current agreements with our police and fire so that they have a 3-year contract and a 3% raise over the 3 years. Ask you to support this.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 15? I don't see anyone, so let's take a vote. All those in favor of Article 15 as appears in the warrant, thank you very much. And all those opposed? Okay, it passes by cards. Okay, Article 16 is a contingent article that is needed if, in fact, you defeated Article 15. Article 16 would have given the town the ability to call a special meeting to try to work out the details and come up with a new contract. Obviously, it is not needed because you just passed Article 15, and I think probably the best thing, I would entertain a motion to indefinitely table Article 16, okay, and a second. And then I'd like to put that to a vote. All those in favor of the motion to indefinitely table 16, please, thank you. And of those opposed, thank you very much. There's certain rules about the fact you have to act on every warrant article, so that's really my reason for doing that, just to make sure nobody can say we forgot to address it. Okay. Article 17, relative to the police detail fund. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 17 as it appears in the warrant? I do. And a second? Thank you very much. And Select Board Member Elena Colby will introduce this to us.
Is everyone ready for more CRF fun? Yeah? Everyone likes capital reserve funds? This warrant article is to see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the police special detail fund, established in Article 23 of the 2008 town meeting pursuant to RSA 31:95-H, to allow for revenue deposited in the fund to be used for the purpose of compensating police personnel and maintaining, repairing, and replacing police department vehicles and equipment. Many of us know traffic details are required for any road work that is conducted on public roads or sidewalks to ensure public safety. Bow Police personnel carry out these details outside of their regular work schedules, and private contractors or firms cover the cost. In 2008, the voters at town meeting established a revolving fund for outside police details at town meeting. The fees collected to pay for the detail services are deposited into this fund, and officers are compensated for their work out of the account. The town's municipal auditors have recommended expanding the scope of the fund to include additional qualifying expenditures. If adopted, the warrant article would permit the use of the fund for police department vehicles, equipment purchases, maintaining equipment, et cetera. I hope that is helpful.
Okay, Article 17. Anyone wish to be heard on Article 17? Whenever I see someone moving, okay, yes, I'll recognize the voter at this mic.
I see him. They shut me off. Jeff Marno, 39 Allen Road. I'm just curious, so we already have a CRF to pay for police vehicles. What is the need to expand this? Number one. Number two, I'm going to ask this in two parts and then step back. If this fund is intended to pay the police officers doing the detail and the money is being deposited into the fund for that purpose, why do we still have funds left over and the officers are not being compensated?
Thank you. The officers are compensated. So I have a little bit of extra information. The balance that is left over, so there's additional charges beyond the police detail cost. So you may charge an administrative fee. That administrative fee is then, let's say, captured in the police detail fund with nowhere to go. Because as of now, it is directed as a revolving fund to only serve the purpose of reimbursing police officers. So if we were to expand the purpose of the revolving fund as recommended by the auditors, the additional money, although not a lot, could be applied to something else, allowed to accrue and later applied to something else. That's as much as I know about the purpose of this.
Selectman Colby, that's right. And just to put the numbers to it, in our police detail fund, $5 of every hour that we charge for a detail goes in to offset the capital costs that the town incurs. And so we use a revolving fund for police detail because we don't know if they're going to have 100 hours of detail or 10,000. And so whatever that amount of money is, we don't have to budget for it. It can go into the revolving fund and pay the officers. What we found is that our revolving fund was taking the $5 per hour and just going into our revenue fund every year. And because we didn't have this language, we weren't able to have that roll over so that we could actually direct it to those capital purchases that we needed. And our auditors actually called this out and said, if it's going to be a revolving fund for that purpose, you actually have to have it revolve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a speaker at this microphone.
I was the town's auditor until I retired in 2022, and I've been commenting in the annual report, if anybody reads that, since the first year I took over the audit about this same thing. The warrant article that set up that revolving fund was not worded correctly, and it said an amount equal to the amount to be expended would go to that fund, and anything else collected would go to the general fund. So now, I mean, a purpose of a revolving fund is to have, as Elena just pointed out, a balance to revolve. If you're only going to put into that fund an exact amount equal to the amount you're taking out of that fund, then there is no balance, and there's no need to have a revolving fund. So my recommendation has always been to either abolish this fund or set it up so you can use it for police expenditures other than paying the outside detail. So I'm very happy to see that finally in 2025 there's been a correction to that, and I still review your financials before they go out for my former partner, and I would say that I saw that he's still commenting on that. So next year this comment should be removed if this article passes.
Don't mess with Tamar, right? Okay, Article 17. Anyone else wish to be heard on Article 17? Great. Let's take a vote on it. All those in favor of Article 17, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All those opposed? Okay, that article passes by cards. Whew. Can it be true? It's before 9 o'clock and we're on the last article, huh? All right. Article 18, relative to the Conservation Commission request. Is there a motion and a second? Okay, I have a motion and second to adopt Article 18 as it appears in the warrant. And as I understand it, members of the Conservation Commission, let's see, we got Sandy Crystal and I think Tom Donovan are here going to speak on this article for us, so.
Kip first.
Oh, I think Kip was going to, oh.
I was just going to introduce Sandy Crystal, One Shoreview Drive for us.
All right, so I'll read the article, and I know it's quite confusing, so between me and Tom O'Donovan, hopefully we can explain things and answer questions. So the article is, shall the town vote to adopt the provisions of RSA 36-A:4-A, Roman numeral 1B, to authorize the Conservation Commission to expend funds for contributions to qualified organizations for the purchase of property interests or facilitating transactions related thereto, where the property interest is to be held by the qualified organization and the town will retain no interest in the property. Yeah, quite a, and you can't change that language, it's in the law that way. So anyway, thank you. The Bow Conservation Commission was established by the town under New Hampshire RSA 36-A in 1967 to protect natural resources and the watershed resources of Bow. The Optional Powers Authority is an additional tool in the conservation toolbox. No, well, okay. You can leave it on the first one for now. The Commission has been successful in conserving land, including Knox, Hammond, and Nottingham forests. These lands not only provide recreational opportunities and habitat for wildlife, but they protect our drinking water. The state legislature in 2008 gave conservation commissions the ability to conserve land by providing funding to Bow landowners via a qualified organization, a land trust. We are here today as the town vote is required for the optional power authority that we are seeking. More than 45 towns have adopted this optional power authority and use them to meet their town's goals to conserve land. We will now reserve some of the specifics about the optional powers.
Now, next slide, Peter. Thank you. I'm Tom O'Donovan from the Bow Conservation Commission. It's a very important decision we're about to make this evening, so we want to take a few minutes to inform that decision. And perhaps by walking through it in a little bit, we can save some time actually in questions and answers. So if we take a look at the way it's set up today for the Conservation Commission, you have the Conservation Commission at the top. It's a part of the town, and it has funds. And we'll talk about where those funds came from in a little bit. And then within town, you have a variety of owners of land who have various ideas about what they want to do with that land. So on the bottom you have, for example, owner A. Owner A wants to sell land or conserve it and is willing to let the town have ownership of that property. Owner B, on the other hand, for whatever reason, doesn't want to have the town have ownership or the conservation easement on that property, but they are willing to sell the land to a land trust in order to put that land into conservation. They feel very strongly about conserving it for future generations. Owner C, on the other hand, has a little bit different viewpoint. They're not willing to have the town involved either for whatever reason they have, and that's certainly their right as a landowner. But they are willing to sell a conservation easement on that property, but they want to retain ownership of the property themselves for the long term and for their future generations. The bottom line is you have 3 Bow landowners who want to conserve their land in Bow and want either funding for the transaction cost to do that, if they want to donate the land, or funding to actually put the land into conservation or to buy it at perhaps something even approaching market value. So today, the only way the conservation can move money is to owner A. That's the restriction of the current articles that establish the Conservation Commission. So the Conservation Commission, bottom line, is we have less ability to fund landowners and land conservation in Bow, less ability to achieve the public purpose of conserving land to balance the development that's going on across town. Next slide, please, Peter. So let's take a look at what it looks like with the optional powers, or that long citation that Sandy gave you. We just call that paragraph B. All right? So with paragraph B, again, the Bow Conservation Commission, with the funding that they have set aside by law for them, now has the ability to provide funding to all 3 of those landowners and be able to balance that conservation, that land conservation and natural resource protection with land development. And so has increased ability to fund landowners and land conservation in Bow. So that's kind of the big concept of what paragraph B says, what we're asking you to adopt for the town. Now let's take a look at it in a little bit more detail, because the legislature used an unusual tool when they set this, not unusual, it's fairly usual, the lawyers tell me, but they set up this language requirement that the language of the Article 18 is specified in the law, and then it tells you that we're adopting Article B. So next slide, please, Peter. So at the top, there's Article B in all its glory, 4 lines, and you can look it up under that citation if you want. Or let's take a quick look at it under a plain reading of the law. And it says in the first part, expend funds for contributions. The funds they're talking about there are the Conservation Commission funds. They're not funds from the revolving funds. They're not funds from CRF, CIPs, or any of these other sources the town's working on. They're just the funds that are legally allocated to the commission, that the funds that are with the commission. 2 qualified organizations, and this got some very good discussion with the select board and helped us to clarify what that means. We went back into the Internal Revenue Code to see that it says land trusts that meet the Internal Revenue Code, Bow Open Spaces, for example, is a qualified organization. For the purchase of property, this funds cannot be used for other purposes except the purchase of property, that is, the money goes to Bow landowners, or facilitating transactions. And many of you have bought or sold homes over the years, and you know there's the money for the purchase of the property, and then there's everything else you got to cover. In our case, it includes survey, title search, title fees, stewardship fees, and similar costs like that, in addition to the purchase of the property. And then when such purchases carries out the purpose of this chapter, in other words, must be for land conservation, protection of natural resources. That's the purpose of Chapter 36-A that establishes the Conservation Commission. Can't be used for anything other than that, and retains the money for the people of Bow who want to conserve their property. Thank you.
I'll wrap up by saying it's important to note that under common law, current law, the commission may not expend funds for land purchase without a public hearing. The commission has adopted an administrative policy to seek select board approval for spending above certain levels. I also want to mention that the reason that there's so much of a focus on the commission and qualified organizations or land trusts like Bow Open Spaces is that they're a partner, and partnerships increase the ability to obtain grant funds to purchase land or an easement or fund transaction costs. When seeking grant funds, there are times that partnering with a land trust, such as Bow Open Spaces, may be the most efficient use of a town's conservation dollars. The goal is to conserve land at the lowest cost now and into the future. Thank you for your support. We'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Okay, I'll recognize the voter at this microphone.
Bob Dawkins, president of Bow Open Spaces. First, I'd like to thank Tom and Sandy for doing such a great presentation and tell you a little bit about Bow Open Spaces. We're an independent qualified land trust dedicated to conserving the town's natural spaces. Established in 1997, our organization was founded primarily by the members of the Conservation Commission and the Select Board. For 28 years, we've maintained a strong and productive partnership with the Conservation Commission, working together to protect treasured areas like Nonnycook Forest and Hammond Nature Preserve. Our approach balances conservation with thoughtful development, ensuring Bow's open spaces are safeguarded for future generations. Our success is driven by a dedicated group of volunteers who serve on our board of directors and committees. For nearly 3 decades, we've worked successfully to protect Bow's open spaces and develop hiking trails for residents to enjoy. Today, Bow Open Spaces supports the optional powers warrant article. We believe the optional powers are a critical tool that will strengthen conservation efforts in Bow. With our extensive experience in land stewardship and trail development, we are well prepared to assist the town in preserving its natural resources. The Conservation Commission and Bow Open Spaces have worked closely to draft the request for adopting the optional powers. Actively incorporating feedback from the Select Board through the process. This is a rare and important opportunity for us to work together and protect Bow's remaining open spaces in environmentally sensitive areas. For over 30 years, Bow residents have demonstrated strong support for conservation, a key reason our town offers such wonderful recreation opportunities. We hope you will continue that tradition by voting yes on warrant Article 18. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Looks like we have some voters lined up at this mic over here. I'll recognize the next one.
Hi, Miriam Exum, 97 Brown Hill Road, Bow. Given the importance of conservation to the recreation, natural resources, and property values of Bow, how much funding is available to the Conservation Commission, and how important is it?
Okay, I'll take that one because I forgot to discuss it more during my presentation, so that's on me. So the funds, if you go back one slide, Peter. And by the way, if anybody needs a hard copy of that slide with the language of the law, let us know. We have a couple copies, we can pass it out. So the funds that you see at the upper top there come from when a landowner takes land out of current use, and a developer then develops. The developer then pays into a fund that is set aside by law for the Conservation Commission. That fund then is authorized by law to go into land conservation to balance the development that occurred. And this was a law, this was an option in the law that was put into place by Bow voters some years ago. And then under the optional powers, as we've discussed, those funds then go back to the landowners, as you see. Now, the funds have increased in a faster rate in the last couple years. The fund has increased in a faster rate in the last couple years due to increased development. For example, the Sawmill Road development and the Cherry Hill Homes that Cherry Hill Homes is putting in, and some of the other developments that you've seen go in around town and are going in even as we speak. They also went up faster in the last couple years, not just due to the increased value of development that we saw in post-COVID, but also due to the payoff of a bond that we had for Hammond that got paid off a couple years ago, a 30-year bond that we finished that was purchased in 2007. So that reduced the outflows out of the fund and caused the fund to increase quicker. The actual current fund amount is shown on page 70 of your town report. You can see it's right in there with the dog license fund and a bunch of other things in there, and has increased since then. That report, of course, was as of the end of the town fiscal year and is now closing in on $900,000.
Okay. Are you folks waiting to speak over there? Okay, I'll recognize the voter there.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Gil Rogers, Jonathan Lane, and Bow. I don't have any issues with the purpose of this particular article. I think it's quite clear what needs to happen. But I think it's bad public policy for any of our volunteer organizations to have the authority to expend funds that belong to the town. If you're an employee of the town or if you are a selectman, I think those are the appropriate places where the authority should come from. So the purpose is good, and Martin Murray, I don't know if he's here tonight, but he did a great job explaining what would happen with this and the opportunities with the funds that we already have secured and those to come. But I still believe as a general policy, volunteers shouldn't be authorized to expend town funds. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are you waiting to speak over here on the side of the room, sir? Yes.
Hi, Eric Toom. I'm the Stewardship Director for Bow Open Spaces. And in 2017, Town of Bow updated their master plan. And the town sent out a survey to residents asking what are the most desirable features that you value about Bow. And the number one desirable feature was location, followed by rural atmosphere, educational system, people, community spirit, and conservation of natural resources. And that's what people value about this town. We have a lot of good things going for us. We've got some great conservation areas, but according to the Town of Bow residents, they want to see more of conservation and more land. So I urge everybody here to vote yes on this optional powers. This is a very important vote, and I appreciate your voting yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I address something that was said by earlier?
I figured you'd want to. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you. While the concern about volunteers spending money, first of all, we do spend money on other things. For land purchases or land-related, conservation land-related things, we have to have a public hearing if there's any money being spent. So it's not being done in a vacuum. We're not just deciding it at a meeting and, sending off the big bucks. We also have responsibility for other areas like the managing milfoil and Turry Pond, where we spend money on contracts there. We had a natural resources inventory, so we're managing our money, but, all the contracts have to be signed by Dave Stack after approval from the Select Board anyway. So, thank you.
Thank you. And we have a voter at this microphone. Yes.
Mr. Moderator, my name is John Erdy from 51 Putney Road. I was on the Conservation Commission when we purchased 1,000 acres, more or less. And at that point in time, we had to determine what we were going to do with the land. And as part of suggestions given to us, we cut off lumber to try to repay the town for that purchase. And we also had a forester on board. We had many things going for us at the time, but one of the things that we were able to do, I believe because of RSAs, we were one of the few committees in town that could receive money and expend it. It is not something that should be taken away, as somebody tried to do one time, because I think it is a benefit to the town to be able to have money on hand so that if something comes across, you're able to purchase it. And I'm not sure if that's what the gentleman was referring to at the beginning, that most of the money should go back to the general fund.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this article?
Bob Dawkins, Open Spaces.
Bob, before you, is there anyone else who wishes to speak before Bob speaks again? Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Just to further expand upon that, under the RSAs, the conservation has control of that money. No other board does. And also, the Conservation Commission adopted a policy in February where they will not expend funds under this optional power without the approval of the Select Board. So we've put in the checks and balances that the Select Board were looking for. We heard their input from a couple years ago, and we spent time crafting this so that it would work well and make everybody comfortable with adopting the optional powers.
Okay. I'll recognize the speaker at this mic.
Harry Hathaway, 10 Timmins Road, Bow, New Hampshire. One of the things I love about living in Bow is the preserved open spaces that we have. Increases our property values. It provides opportunities for us to go hiking, mountain biking, cross-country skiing. It really enhances our well-being to have this open spaces. Having this funds available to leverage with grants will allow us to conserve land that is fast disappearing. And I think this might be one of the last chances to be able to do this. So I encourage you all to vote for this. If you value the open spaces, if you have land that's not conserved near your home and would like to see it conserved, to have that open space and enhance your property values, this is your opportunity to vote for that.
Thank you for your comments.
How are you, Peter? My name's Chris Nicolopoulos. I live at 23 Buckingham Drive. I'm speaking as a citizen and not as a select board member today. I am concerned with this optional power adoption solely because it will allow the Conservation Commission, which currently has access to $900,000 that can be expended without a vote of any other board of this town or this meeting, and I'm not advocating for that, but they would be permitted, if we adopt this, to send up to $900,000 to a Bow landowner to purchase an interest in a property, either purchase the property or purchase the conservation rights of that property, and have those development rights, those property rights, given to an organization that isn't the Conservation Commission. It isn't controlled by Bow. I know they're saying that it'll likely be Bow Open Spaces, or that we currently have a policy where we're going to check with the Board of Selectmen before we do it. These optional powers will allow them, for all and forever, to use all of the money available to them to purchase property in the name other than the Conservation Commission. They do have to be a qualified entity, but there are some 1,700 qualified entities authorized by the IRS. And so I think you just need to consider that before you authorize this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'll give you one final chance, and then it looks like we'll take a vote.
Yeah, I just want to address a few things. On the conservation land, if you're interested, our website, we did a natural resources inventory several years ago, identified conservation focus areas, so things that have high value, whether it's for groundwater, water quality, wildlife, or other things. But it's something on the website that you can take a look at and see what high value areas are not yet protected. Optional powers allows the commission to accomplish more conservation objectives for less money by being able to contribute to a qualified organization. When I spoke with somebody that is in Canterbury who's on the Conservation Commission, he told me they didn't want to hold any more easements. They were not monitoring them as they were needed to do, and they were spending money having someone else monitor them. So with optional powers, this was a way to support the project without that perpetual obligation. One other example that Bow Open Spaces had is they were donated a piece of property and they were able to get a grant to acquire the property because there are survey costs, title fees, a whole lot of other stewardship fund that you need to have. So even when things are donated, these other funds are required, and in this case, the person didn't want to work with the Conservation Commission. So we now have this nice, very high-quality piece of land that's near our other lands that the Conservation Commission doesn't have any control over, but there's a conservation restrictions that protect the property and that Bow Open Spaces will continue to oversee. And this is what we are looking for this to help us accomplish in other places in town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's a speaker at this microphone who hasn't spoken, and we haven't heard yet tonight. My goodness.
Sorry I was late, Peter. I had a board meeting.
Oh, my goodness. It wouldn't be the same without you.
Well, actually, this will be your last time with me because I'm moving to Dunbarton, so thank you, Bob.
Ooh. Don't forget to, before you move to Dunbarton, at least tell us where you're living now and what your name is, please.
104 Brown Hill Road. It'll be for sale short. No, never mind. 104 Brown Hill Road, Lisa Cohen. I just want some clarification. So, based on this, you can spend the Conservation Commission money to purchase either property or, give somebody money for property that they will continue to own, but it will be conserved, but we have no say on it, And they don't have to work with open spaces either, they just have to say it's in conservation?
No. When you have, there are requirements when you have a conservation easement is, I think, what you're referring to. So someone can own a piece of land and say, okay, I have my house on this 1 acre, but I have 50 other acres. I want to put that in an easement. So they can basically have somebody purchase, like the Conservation Commission, purchase an easement. Now, the easement has a lot of details in it on what you can and can't do on it, how issues are addressed. I mean, there's a whole, specific language. It gets recorded with the Merrimack County Registry of Deeds and such, and then it would get monitored once a year by whoever holds the easement, would monitor it and make sure that the landowner isn't doing things on it that they're not allowed to do. Easements really that basically take development rights away really are about 75% of the cost of the property, typically. But there would be, that's why there's this annual monitoring that's required.
Okay, so Bo would still have some say in it, it just, they wouldn't.
Right, well, the thing is, the idea is that if like Bo Open Spaces holds the easement, it's in Bo, it's protecting Bo's groundwater, it's protecting wildlife and such, but the Conservation Commission, other than upfront, making sure the easement meets our criteria, Bo wouldn't have any further say, the Conservation Commission wouldn't have any further say unless there was something, egregious going on.
And are those easements in perpetuity? Sorry, last piece.
I'm sorry?
Are the easements in perpetuity, like forever?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they are in perpetuity.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. I'll recognize a speaker at this microphone.
Jack Crisp, 5 Courier Drive. One of the things I do is serve on the board of the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, which does the same kind of thing with buildings that we're trying to preserve, historic properties that we're trying to preserve here in New Hampshire. And 2 points, one really responding to what Chris had to say. First of all, these easements, and I suspect our moderator has written many of them over the course of his career, they are long, detailed, lengthy, and they address all the limitations on what an owner of land is allowed to do after that easement is in place. And as Sandy said, they're in perpetuity, and here in Bow, we monitor those, as we do at the Preservation Alliance, to try to make sure that they're honored. The second thing is, I can tell you that these things happen unexpectedly, and you need to act when that opportunity arises. You cannot wait for a town meeting or something else to get approval. The people who are on our commission, I assume that they're appointed by the Board of Selectmen, so they are our representatives, and they know what they're doing. And I think we have to trust them that, they are making wise decisions about these things. And I think if you look at this history, it proves that they have done a great job. They're trying to protect our water, they're trying to protect our open spaces, they're trying to protect our wildlife, and they're trying to add to our property values. And I appreciate everybody's concern about the money, but they are coming to the Select Board and asking for permission to do these things. I think that shows you the goodwill they have in their efforts to try to do some beneficial things for our town. And I would urge you to vote in favor of this.
Thank you. And it appears as if there aren't any more speakers wishing to speak on this. So this is Article 18, relative to the adoption of specific provisions relative to Conservation Commission powers. So I'd like to put the matter to a vote at this point in time. All those in favor of Article 18 as it appears in the warrant, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes clearly have it. The article passes. Yeah, we do have a final article. Any other business to come before the meeting, but if there isn't any, I'd be more than happy to entertain the motion to adjourn. And all those in favor, raise your cards, stand up, put your coats on, and let's go home. Thank you very much for a great meeting.
Thank you, Mimi.